Chapter 56-90. Although the sword chi of the people in front of him could not be compared to his own, he could tell from the burning flames in their eyes that they were determined and serious. His grandfather had said that Beichen and the others were talented in cultivation, but their environment was different from his. Their cultivation resources were not as good as his, so their strength was not as good as his. He had been cultivating with his grandfather since he was young. Granny Hua would often refine pills for him, and he had almost never stopped taking medicinal baths. If Beichen and the others were in such an environment, their strength would probably not be weaker than his. When Ziren walked up from the bottom of the river again, his steps were no longer as steady and fast as before. His delicate and elegant face showed unconcealable tiredness, and he could not help but pant as he walked, and he was holding a fish in his hand. When I fell down just now, I hit a fish and it seemed to have fainted. I think we can make a fish dish tonight. Ziren raised the fish in his hand, and a bright smile appeared on his face again. After seeing Ziren's funny look, the others, who were also tired, could not help but chuckle. Good idea. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded, and a playful and mischievous smile appeared on her exquisite face. She was like a forest elf, extremely cute. Ziren, how big is your body to be able to knock this fish out? Why didn't I do the same? Shangguan Yingying scolded with a smile, but the smile in her eyes could not be stopped. I think this fish must have seen me working too hard, so it fainted on purpose. Reward me well. Ziren said proudly. Everyone looked at each other. This guy was as thick-skinned as ever. Why don't we catch a fish if one of us falls down? How about it? Ziren looked interested. Although this river is wide and rapid, the water is clear. The fish should taste very delicious. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at the fish in Ziren's hand. This fish was obviously different from the fish they usually saw. Its body was more beautiful, and its scales reflected a dazzling light under the sun. With just a glance, she could tell that the fish must be more chewy than usual. The river here is rapid. Ordinary fish cannot survive here. This fish is indeed different. I believe it will taste good. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Ziren's face also showed interest. Really? Of course. If you don't believe me, ask Yingying. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. I believe you. Ziren's eyebrows raised and smiled. He raised the fish in his hand. Beichen looked at the interested Ziren and shook his head helplessly. This guy hasn't changed at all after so many years. Hearing you say that, you seem to have seen it many times. Mo Yinjue said. I always felt that with my talent in cultivation, it should be more than that. Now I have finally found the reason. Beichen sighed. As soon as these words came out, everyone turned their heads and looked at Beichen doubtfully. What reason? In the past, when I was cultivating, this guy would always interrupt and drag me to do other things. This was very common. Beichen looked at Ziren with a smile, looking like he was going to settle scores. Chapter 56-91. Night slowly fell, and the abandoned immortal forest was shrouded in darkness. The moonlight reflected off the surface of the river. Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest tried again and again, as if they did not feel the passage of time. It's getting late, let's go back. Zhongli Mu stood up and reminded everyone who was still cultivating. However, everyone seemed to be numb to it, and they continued to practice like machines. They did not know when they would be able to master this move, but they knew that Zhongli Mu had tried millions of times before he succeeded. No matter what kind of martial skill it was, it would definitely become a powerful killing weapon after practicing it millions of times. Granny and the rest should be hungry. Zhongli Mu said again. The weather had been getting colder recently, and the sky was getting dark earlier. However, it was time to go back. As soon as these words came out, everyone who was still immersed in cultivation immediately came back to their senses. Bailey Hongzhuang stopped what she was doing and quickly jumped onto the shore. Looking at the sky, she was shocked. I didn't expect it to be so late. You're all so focused. Zhongli Mu smiled. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest so serious, he could not help but think of himself when he was young. In the beginning, he was not so serious. On the contrary, he would often slack off. However, his grandfather would always chase after him with a wooden stick, urging him every day. Gradually, it became a habit for him. In comparison, he was not serious at all. Let's go back quickly, Senior and the rest are hungry. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at everyone. It's really late today. Everyone nodded. They had agreed that they would be in charge of cooking, and the senior would guide them in their cultivation. Now that the senior had started to guide them, they could not forget their duties. At the same time, Hua, Yu Hong, and Hua Shukong were sitting outside the house, looking at the stars in the sky with a relaxed expression. Old Yu, did you teach them swordsmanship today? Hua looked at Yu Hong casually and asked. These little guys have been cooking for us for so many days, it's time for them to start cultivating. Yu Hong picked up a cup of tea from the side and took a sip before continuing. However, they brought another little fellow today. They said that he's their good brother. Hua Shukong glanced at Yu Hong and looked away. I can tell from your expression that you've been bribed. This newcomer is not bad. He even brought a greeting gift. If that's the case, doesn't that mean you'll have to teach anyone in the future? Hua's eyes turned serious. Yu Hong waved his hand. Of course not. I only agreed because I'm very satisfied with these little fellows. I'll only do this once, and there won't be a next time. Humph, Hua snorted coldly. What delicious food did this little guy use to bribe you? Then shouldn't we wait for them to come back? Yu Hong looked away guiltily. Old man Yu, I've known you for so many years, how could I not know what kind of person you are? Hua sneered, I smelled the snacks on you as soon as you came back. The older you get, the more you like to eat alone. Look at what you're saying. I just ate a little while I was at it. When Zhongli Shaoran walked over, he saw the three old fellows sitting in the courtyard and frowned slightly. Mu, and the rest aren't back yet. Chapter 5692. Hearing that, Zhongli Shaoran did not ask any more questions. Instead, he found a seat and sat down. This smell. Old Lady Hua, you've prepared a medicinal bath. Your nose is quite sharp. Zhongli Shaoran's eyes flashed with surprise. From the thickness of the medicinal smell, you've prepared quite a bit. You can't be biased, right? Hua's face was calm. I'm a fair person, unlike a certain fellow who likes to eat alone. Cough cough. Knowing that Hua was talking about him, Yu Hong coughed dryly. Since he was already feeling guilty, he could only remain silent. Why are you few old fellows so free? Zhongli Shaoran did not understand. Don't you usually dislike trouble? He had known these few old fellows for quite some time. Naturally, he knew their personalities. Thinking back to when he asked these three fellows to teach Mu some skills, they were still hesitant. Although they agreed in the end, he still had to put in a lot of effort. After that, some cultivators from the abandoned immortal forest came to ask for guidance. However, these few fellows had no intention of teaching them at all. Everyone returned empty-handed. This time, Mu got to know these few young people. Although he agreed to cultivate with Mu he did not have any intention of teaching them. He knew that these few young people were not from the immortal domain. It should be a coincidence that they came here. However, he did not know what treasure they used to come here. However, these few old fellows were not normal. This made him very surprised. Indeed, we don't like trouble. However, these few fellows are not troublesome either. Hua Shukong slowly said, these few fellows' eyes are very pure. Perhaps they've been in the abandoned immortal forest for too long and found it boring. Isn't it good to have a few young people to add some life? Indeed, eating tasteless food all day long. My mouth is so bland. Yu Hong sighed, it's so good now. Most importantly, it's pleasing to the eyes. Hua Er's face was full of satisfaction. Look at how good these few fellows are. It's much better than looking at your faces all day long. Old lady Hua, you can praise others if you want. Why do you have to bring me into it? Yu Hong was unhappy. When I was young, I also charmed thousands of girls. TSK, forget it. Zhongli Xiao Ran looked at the three old men in front of him. He didn't know if the situation was as simple as they said. He was quite fond of these young people. However, to be able to make these three old fellows act out of character, it could be considered their ability. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the others returned, they saw the four seniors waiting for them in the courtyard. They immediately felt even more guilty. Senior, we're sorry. We came back late. Everyone hurriedly apologized. Let's go prepare dinner. Bailey Hongzhuang and Shangguan Yingying quickly walked to the kitchen. When Ziren raised the bamboo basket in his hand and said with a smile, we caught a lot of fresh fish today. The four seniors looked at everyone and didn't say anything. However, when their gazes landed on Mo Yunjue, they couldn't help but size him up a little more. This was the first time they had seen this young man. Chapter 56-93. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others breathed a sigh of relief when they came to the kitchen. They had been worried that they would be scolded for coming back late. Now they were the ones asking for help. Even if the seniors seemed to be easy to get along with, if they were slightly dissatisfied, they would have no chance at all. It seems that the four seniors are in a good mood. They didn't complain about us coming back late. Shangguan Yingying breathed a sigh of relief. We have to cook a few dishes tonight. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and nodded. The fish Ziren caught looks good. Of course. The fish I caught are of different species. But I'll have to rely on your skills to cook. Ziren looked proud. Bailey Hongzhuang and Shangguan Yingying were very fast, and with the help of others, their speed was even faster. Plate after plate of dishes were served. In addition to some local specialties they bought from the Emperor Cloud City, a table of dishes was soon ready. After preparing some things, Bailey Hongzhuang sat down weakly. After practicing for the whole day, her right hand was a little numb from swinging the sword. Coupled with the washing of the river, her right hand was a little tired. Bailey Hongzhuang was thinking about whether or not she should use silver needles to help everyone relieve the sore and swollen feeling. Only then could they continue to practice tomorrow in a good state. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to bear it for a few days. However, at this moment, the figure of Hua Hua appeared in front of everyone. You must be hungry too, right? Come and eat with us. Everyone smiled and waved their hands. Granny Hua, we're not hungry. Don't say that. Come quickly. Otherwise, we'll be the ones who mistreat you. Granny Hua smiled. Hearing this, everyone looked at each other, but still followed behind Granny Hua. Yu Hong looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and the others who were slightly restrained. He smiled and waved his hand. Little guys, just treat us as your elders. Don't be shy. Thank you, senior. Hua Shukong smiled. How are the results of your practice today? Everyone looked at each other, looking a little embarrassed. We didn't have any results today. Old man Hua, aren't you talking nonsense? Yu Hong waved his hand. It's impossible to master it in a day or two. You can only succeed if you practice day and night. Senior Yu, we will definitely work hard in our cultivation. Yu Hong nodded slightly. I know that all of you have been training very hard, so Granny Hua has prepared a gift for all of you. Granny Hua. Everyone was surprised. If you're done eating, go to the house over there. I've prepared a medicinal bath for you. After a day of high-intensity cultivation, soak in the medicinal bath and cultivate. Your cultivation speed will greatly increase. Everyone's eyes lit up. Previously, they had heard from Zhongli Mu that he would often soak in medicinal baths after cultivating. They did not expect that they would have the opportunity to do so. Thank you, Grandma Hua. Everyone bowed, expressing their gratitude with words and expressions. Although he hadn't soaked in it before, he could guess that the ingredients used for this medicinal bath weren't simple. When everyone saw the bathtubs in front of them, they were touched. The material of the bathtub looked very new. Obviously, it was specially prepared for them in the past 2 days. Chapter 5694. Just by smelling the scent of the medicinal bath, she knew that there were many precious spiritual herbs here. She could recognize most of them, but there were also some that she did not know about. It was not because she could not recognize them, but because she had never come into contact with them before. In the abandoned immortal forest, she found some spiritual herbs that she did not recognize. It was clear that there were many differences between the immortal region and the upper realm. Not only that, some of the rarer herbs in the upper realm could be found here. If her judgment was correct, she lived in the upper realm 1,000 years ago. She had never come into contact with the immortal region. Therefore, if she came to the immortal region in the future, she would have to read more books to understand the effects of the spiritual herbs in the immortal region. Let's go in quickly. This medicinal bath is very beneficial to our bodies. Bailey Hongzhuang said. Sheng Guaningying and Ling'er did not delay, and hurriedly entered the tub. A wave of warmth surrounded everyone, and their tired bodies immediately relaxed. The medicinal power entered their bodies through their pores, quietly improving their bodies. Granny Hua must have spent a lot of effort to prepare this medicinal bath. Sheng Guaningying looked at the brown medicinal water. She could feel that after the medicinal power entered her body seemed to have become stronger. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Just preparing these herbs took a lot of effort, and also mixing them together. As she said that, a smile bloomed on her face. Granny Hua is really good. At that moment, the three of them felt that they were very lucky to have met a few kind seniors to guide them in their cultivation after coming to the abandoned immortal forest. In another room, Di Beichen, Wen Ziren, Mo Yinjue, and Bai Li Yen Che were also soaking in the medicinal bath. Even though the four of them did not know much about medicine, they could feel the uniqueness of this medicinal bath. If we cultivate at such a high intensity every day, coupled with the medicinal power of this medicinal bath, I'm afraid our strength will increase very quickly. Granny Hua is really a good person. We barely do anything every day, and she actually helps us like this. Ziren's heart was filled with warmth, and he was determined to treat Granny Hua well. I didn't expect to meet such a kind-hearted old man in the immortal realms. How rare, your luck is really good. Mo Yinjue, who had always been a man of few words, also spoke up. Usually, the people he met would not get up early if there was no benefit to be gained. It was rare to see someone who was willing to help others like this. Xiao Xuanzi looked at Bai Li Yen Che, who was soaking in the medicinal bath with a look of enjoyment, and it could not help but feel envious. Yen Che, doesn't this feel great? Bai Li Yen Che opened his eyes and raised his eyebrows. Of course. Do you want to try? Xiao Xuanzi nodded. Yes. But it's inconvenient for you to be covered in hair. I think we should forget about it. Bai Li Yen Che chuckled. Why don't you transform into a human too? You've already succeeded anyway. That's right. Now that things have come to this, you don't have to be so secretive. We're all men, what are you afraid of? Ziren also spoke up. Until now, Xiao Xuanzi had not transformed into a human in front of them, and they could not help but be curious. Xiao Xuanzi, this is a good opportunity. Isn't it great to cultivate with us every day? Di Beichen said. Chapter 5695. Seeing Xiao Xuanzi's firm refusal, everyone looked at each other and felt a little helpless. In my opinion, Xiao Xuanzi is too fat, he doesn't even dare to let us see his real face. When Xiren couldn't help but laugh, speaking of which, we really don't have any fatties in our team. Xiao Xuanzi, it's not a bad idea for you to join us and enrich our team. I don't want to. Xiao Xuanzi snorted, walked to the side and sat down. Mo Yinjue glanced at Xiren and said, Xiren, you're thinking that if Xiao Xuanzi joins us, then you'll have someone to scapegoat for you, right? As soon as he said that, Di Beichen and Bai Li Yen Che also reacted. Recalling Yu Hong's look of disdain when he talked about Xiren, after thinking about it carefully, it was indeed possible. Ahem. Being poked at the key point, Xiren glanced around, wanting to change the topic, but found that the three people's eyes were still on him. Obviously, he couldn't avoid it, so he could only helplessly say, "Who asked you guys to look so devilish?" In the past, at least I had Ling Xiao as my companion, but now, Ling Xiao isn't here, I'm the only one left. Can't you guys understand me? Do you think I'm easy? Hearing Xiren's sorrowful question, the three people's lips twitched slightly. Why are you guys looking at me like that? Seeing the three people looking at him strangely, Xiren couldn't help but ask. Pfft, ha ha ha. The three people laughed, Bai Li Yen Che even held his stomach, tears coming out of the corner of his eyes. Xiren, you're a man, we didn't notice that you care so much about this problem. I don't want to care. Xiren rolled his eyes, look at Granny Hua and the others, this is an era where looks matter, sigh. Bailey Hongzhuang sat in the bathtub, closed her eyes and began to cultivate the demon summoning scripture. The rich vitality in the air was mixed with the pure medicinal power of the medicinal bath as she breathed in and out. It merged into her body and entered her limbs and bones. It flowed along her meridians and finally merged into her dantian. Linger and Shengguan Yingying were also focused on cultivating, unwilling to waste any time. The next day, Bailey Hongzhuang opened her eyes when the first rays of the morning sun shone into the room. Feeling that the water in the bathtub was still warm, a trace of surprise appeared in his eyes. It's really interesting that the water temperature can be maintained like this. After hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's voice, Shengguan Yingying and Linger also exited their cultivation state. They saw that the originally rich color of the potion had gradually become transparent. It was obvious that the potion had been absorbed by their bodies. Other than that, some stains could be vaguely seen, which were discharged from their bodies. These stains are somewhat similar to the stains we get when we cleanse our marrow and meridians. Could it be that this medicinal bath has such an effect? Shengguan Yingying said in surprise. Marrow and meridians cleansing could improve a cultivator's physique, making it more suitable for cultivation. However, after a cultivator had undergone the first cleansing, it would be extremely difficult for them to achieve a similar effect again. Now, they had only soaked in the medicinal bath once and it had such an effect. It was really a surprise. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the water in the bathtub, her clear eyes filled with surprise and surprise, that's right, it does have such an effect. Chapter 5696. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled, I had a similar opportunity before, so there were fewer impurities. Back then, in Bai Yinjiao's historical remains, she soaked in the pool and her body improved. Although these differences weren't obvious, one could feel the difference when cultivating. This was due to the fact that not many impurities were discharged. However, just being able to do this was already very shocking. I wonder what ingredients Granny Hua added. Bailey Hongzhuang was amazed. She was sure that Granny Hua's medical skills were amazing. Even though the immortal region had more spiritual herbs than the upper realm, she believed that not everyone could create such a medicinal bath. Zhongli Mu had soaked in this medicinal bath since he was young, so the impurities in his body must have been expelled. It was no wonder that his cultivation talent was so shocking. If she was able to learn the prescription and bring back the spiritual grasses from the abandoned immortal forest, she would be able to hand them over to the elders. Presumably, the elders' strength would also increase. However, although Granny Hua was easy to get along with, she might not be willing to teach this method to others. Furthermore, Granny Hua had only agreed to guide them in their cultivation. Hong Zhuang, what are you thinking about? Shang Wanningying waved her hand in front of Bailey Hongzhuang's face when she saw that she was suddenly lost in thought. Bailey Hongzhuang returned to her senses and shook her head with a smile. Nothing, let's go out. Prepare a simple breakfast. We should go out and cultivate. Ling Er was not good at cooking, but she had learned a little from following Bailey Hongzhuang and Shang Wanningying. At least, the task of preparing the side dishes was now in her hands. With a wave of her hand, the ingredients were cleanly processed. When Di Beichen and the rest came out, they realized that breakfast was already prepared. Everyone immediately walked towards the waterfall. As they walked, they munched on their dry rations. When they arrived, everyone could immediately enter cultivation mode. The morning air was slightly chilly. The cold wind blew on everyone's bodies, making their clothes seem slightly thin. However, everyone's eyes were burning with the flames of war, as if they couldn't feel the cold at all. In the next moment, everyone's figures flashed and arrived on the surface of the river. Originally, just standing here was already very difficult. Every wave that came was a test for them. It wasn't until last night that everyone managed to hold on for a little longer. However, after a night of rest, there seemed to be a sense of unfamiliarity. Plop. Plop. A loud splash was heard, and everyone was accidentally washed downstream again. The river water was bone-chillingly cold, and even his body stiffened a little. Once again, he would return and join the group practicing his swordsmanship, and the cycle would repeat. After falling into the water 3 times in a row, everyone finally regained the feeling they had last night and stood a little more firmly. Of course, he would still accidentally fall into the water from time to time, but the frequency was undoubtedly lower than yesterday. When Granny Hua and the rest woke up, they found that breakfast was already prepared, and Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest were nowhere to be seen. These little guys are really serious about cultivation. They are quite similar to me in the past. Hua Shukang chuckled, and there was a trace of satisfaction in his voice. Chapter 5697. Previously, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others had been staying in the wooden house. Because Yu Hong had not yet taught them how to cultivate, they spent most of their time here. They would only follow him out to cultivate if he came. He didn't expect them to leave first today. Of course, you're the laziest one. Granny Hua smiled. Yu Hong nodded. I remember was always lazy when he was cultivating. It was Zhongli Kong who chased after him with a wooden stick every day that forced him to cultivate. Isn't that so? If Mu had been so diligent, his cultivation would be much higher now. Hua Shukang laughed. Zhongli Mu's face turned red when he heard everyone's words. He hurriedly said, I know. I'll go cultivate now. As soon as he finished speaking, Zhongli Mu ran away like a wisp of smoke. If he continued to stay here, he was afraid that even his grandfather would scold him. Everyone laughed even more when they saw Zhongli Mu run faster than a rabbit. Mu is simple and honest. He just said a few words and ran away. Zhongli Shao shook his head. Looks like Mu doesn't need to be supervised with these little fellows here. Mu is usually with us old fellows and rarely sees people of the same generation. That's why he doesn't feel nervous. Now that he knows how people of the same generation cultivate, he knows what's going on. This is a good thing. Hua Shukang smiled. I think you're here to freeload. These little fellows have already prepared breakfast before they left. When Zhongli Mu arrived at the waterfall, he discovered that everyone was there. From the looks of it, everyone had been cultivating here for quite some time. I didn't expect you to come so early. When I went to Granny Hua's place to look for you, you weren't there. Hearing Zhongli Mu's familiar voice, everyone turned around and smiled. You're here. We thought that you usually wake up a little late, so we didn't disturb you. Zhongli Mu curled his lips. I woke up late today and got scolded by my grandfather. Looks like I'll have to wake up early tomorrow. You'll have to call me. Everyone was slightly taken aback. They did not expect such a situation to occur. They all nodded and said, we will definitely call you in the future. Seeing this, Zhongli Mu smiled and said, then all of you should stay here and cultivate properly. If you want to stand firmly on the surface of the river, you have to control your elemental energy to the smallest detail. This doesn't have much to do with strength. All you need to do is train more. I'm going to cultivate above the waterfall. Understood. Everyone nodded. In fact, they had also realized this during the day of cultivation. The reason why they fell into the river was because they did not have enough control over their essence energy, so they could not stand steadily on the surface of the river. Once the waves hit, the water surface would become different. He had to control it immediately, or he wouldn't be able to stand firm. Normally, everyone would pay attention to improving their control over their origin energy when they were cultivating. However, the requirements at that time were not high, so it did not appear to be difficult. But now that the requirements were higher, his control paled in comparison. Zhongli Mu, why are you training at the waterfall? Shangguan Yingying asked. Grandpa said that my movement technique is not good enough. If I follow the waterfall upstream and succeed, my movement technique will improve greatly. Chapter 56-98. Even though they were a certain distance away from the waterfall, they could still feel the force of the water rushing down. Looking at the height of the waterfall, wasn't it too difficult to walk up directly? For a moment, the corners of everyone's lips twitched slightly. This kind of cultivation method was really an eye-opener for them. I finally understand why Zhongli Mu's strength is so terrifying despite being younger than us. Xiren sighed, his cultivation method is really too terrifying. Di Beichen nodded slightly, although this cultivation method is very simple, it's much more difficult than our usual cultivation. Whether it was for them to practice their swordsmanship here or for Zhongli Mu to practice his movement technique, it was very simple to do, but it was very difficult to do. However, it could be seen from Zhongli Mu that once it was done, it would definitely not only improve in one aspect. Until now, I can only walk halfway up the waterfall before I'll be washed down by the water. However, I believe that as long as I practice for a while more, I'll succeed. I'll go first. Zhongli Mu waved his hand. His youthful face was filled with endless youth under the sunlight, and his bright and sunny appearance gave everyone more motivation. Come, let's continue to practice and strive to succeed as soon as possible. On this day, when Xiren used his fishing techniques to catch a lot of fish. Naturally, he couldn't avoid making fish for dinner. However, he changed the cooking method today and it tasted very good. In the following days, everyone was busy with their cultivation. When they returned, Granny Hua would prepare a medicinal bath for them. Regarding this, everyone expressed their gratitude, and Granny Hua's face was full of kindness. Cultivating in this medicinal bath allowed everyone's cultivation to increase extremely quickly. Furthermore, the origin energy here was much denser and purer than the upper realm. Gradually, everyone was able to stand on the surface of the river without worrying about falling down. This discovery made everyone happy. Although their sword aura didn't improve much, being able to stand here was already a huge improvement. Usually, because they would always fall into the river and walk back from downstream, most of their time was spent on this. Now, everyone could wholeheartedly practice their swordsmanship. Swinging the sword continuously. It was just a simple movement, but everyone made some discoveries in the process of swinging the sword continuously. As their control of origin energy increased, they also discovered a sharp difference when swinging the sword. For example, how to use origin energy to produce a greater effect with the same amount of origin energy. Perhaps they didn't pay too much attention to this point on normal days. When releasing a martial skill, they paid more attention to the might of the martial skill. But now, they realized that controlling origin power was also a profound knowledge. The more origin energy they conserved, the longer their battle power, and if they could accurately control every bit of origin energy without wasting it, it meant that their battle power. Zhongli Mu is right. In the process of cultivation, other than the improvement of sword qi, there are many other aspects that are quietly improving. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes fell on the figure on top of the waterfall. This time, they had seen how serious and terrifying Zhongli Mu's cultivation was. Previously, they were often swept away by the river, but Zhongli Mu was completely submerged by the river. Chapter 56-99. Under the majestic waterfall, Zhongli Mu's figure seemed extremely small. The huge waves crashed onto his body and directly pushed him to the bottom of the river. However, Zhongli Mu was also very resilient and quickly made a comeback. Therefore, when everyone practiced swinging their swords, they could only watch as Zhongli Mu continuously tried and failed. Defeated and defeated, defeated and still fighting. When Xiren was curious about how difficult Zhongli Mu's move was, so he personally gave it a try. The result was undoubtedly heartbreaking. Before he could even take a few steps forward, he was already submerged by the waterfall. He had to drink a few mouthfuls of water before he could emerge. Di Beichen, Mo Yinjue, and Bai Li Yen Che also gave it a try. Their cultivation levels were slightly higher than Xiren's, but they only managed to take a few more steps forward. In front of the waterfall, they were extremely small. The difficulty level increased with every step forward. Based on their current situation, it was undoubtedly very far for them to reach Zhongli Mu's current level. This gap is really too big. Xiren sighed. We still have a lot of training to do. After Mo Yinjue experienced this gap, the way he looked at Zhongli Mu also changed. If Zhongli Mu goes to the upper realm, I'm afraid no one will be able to stand shoulder to shoulder with him. Di Beichen nodded and looked at the young man in the beast robe. Such a genius was really outstanding. I used to think that there were too many outstanding geniuses in the upper realm. But in front of Zhongli Mu, those geniuses are all overshadowed. There are also many geniuses in the upper realm. Everyone is working hard to cultivate. While we've been here, I think Jun Lingxuan and Xiao Sou are also working hard to cultivate. Mo Yinjue's eyes darkened. Although he felt that Mu Jin's character was not very good, he could see that this guy was also tenacious when he was in the Immortal Cloud's secret realm. This time, after being defeated by Hong Zhuang, the possibility of him giving up was not very high. Instead, it was more likely that he would work hard. Aren't we also working hard to cultivate? Di Beichen smiled faintly, but a cold light flashed in his eyes. The next time we meet, we'll see. In the blink of an eye, 2 months passed. Other than when Xiren and Shengguan Yingying, everyone else's strength stopped at Nebula Stage 9. According to Granny Hua, there was no need to rush to break through at this time. The most important thing was to accumulate. Among them, the first to sense the possibility of a breakthrough was Bai Li Yen Che. Originally, his strength was slightly weaker than Ling Er, but now they were on par. Because of the existence of the seal, Ling Er found it even more difficult to break through. After Bai Li Yen Che sensed the opportunity to break through, he had been suppressing it. He had no intention of breaking through. It will be interesting if we break through at the same time, Bai Li Yen Che said with a smile. Let's take advantage of this opportunity. Wait for me and Yingying. Xiren's face was filled with joy. Normally, your breakthroughs are too fast. Ying and I can't catch up to you. Now, this is a good opportunity. I don't think so. Beichen raised his eyebrows. Beichen, you'll get beaten up like this. Xiren threatened. With your strength? Forget I said that. Chapter 5700. Normally, everyone would spend most of their time cultivating on the surface of the river, and when it was time to eat, the men would go around hunting demonic beasts. After a while, they naturally became familiar with each other. On this day, when Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were cultivating, Xiao Xuanzi suddenly looked ahead with excitement. Wow, it's so beautiful. The sudden voice attracted everyone's attention. Everyone turned their heads and looked in the direction Xiao Xuanzi was looking at. They didn't know what this guy was talking about. However, when they saw the figure in front of them, they were all stunned. An imperial wind horse elephant appeared in everyone's line of sight. Its rumbling sound revealed its weight. Its body was huge, but its lines were very beautiful. The imperial wind horse elephant is the descendant of a hippopotamus and an elephant. It's very good at speed and is a very powerful existence among the demonic beasts. Zhongli Mu noticed Bailey Hongzhuang and the others' curious looks and immediately explained with a smile. This guy is very good at speed. Mo Yinjue was a little surprised. This guy in front of him was so huge, it didn't look like it was strong and healthy. Zhongli Mu nodded slightly. You can't judge a book by its cover. It's the same for beasts. Little Blossom, you're here. Zhongli Mu waved his hand at the imperial wind horse elephant. He was very familiar with it. The imperial wind horse elephant slowly walked to Zhongli Mu's side and rubbed against him. It was very friendly. However, when it looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, it was undoubtedly a little more distant. Little Blossom. Shangguaning Ying's lips twitched. This imperial wind horse elephant looked so domineering, why did it have such an unsuitable name? Without waiting for Zhongli Mu's explanation, Xiao Xuanzi said with a silly smile, it's originally as beautiful as a flower. Everyone couldn't help but shiver. Looking at Xiao Xuanzi's love-struck expression, they suddenly felt that their aesthetic standards were a little different from Xiao Xuanzi's. Previously, I thought that Xiao Xuanzi's aesthetic standards were quite normal. Could it be that after he gained weight, his aesthetic standards also changed? Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Beichen thoughtfully. Beichen's eyes were also filled with doubt. He shook his head and said, I don't know about that. Maybe the demonic beast's sense of beauty is different from ours. In my opinion, little Xuanzi must have been too empty and lonely recently, so he's thinking of love. Xiren's eyes lit up, and he looked like he had found the truth. Hearing Xiren's words, everyone looked at each other. Perhaps there was such a possibility. Zhongli Mu, on the other hand, did not notice anything amiss as he explained to everyone, you all know that Granny Hua's name is Hua Hua, right? Back then, when Little Blossom was injured, it was Granny Hua who treated him. From then on, Little Flower and us got to know each other. Sometimes, when we found some treasures, we would give them to Granny Flower. However, Granny Hua did not accept it as a contract beast, but their relationship was still very good. Granny Hua's name is Hua Hua, so she named him Little Flower. Everyone finally understood. Actually, when they knew Granny Hua's name, they were also a little shocked. After all, this name was really too simple. Now, it seemed that Granny Hua had inherited her parents' tradition. Naming was as simple as always, Master, why do I feel that Granny Hua's naming skills are comparable to yours? Chapter 5701. Ugh, Bailey Hongzhuang facepalmed. When she first heard the name Little Blossom, she felt helpless. However, after hearing Xiao Hei's words, it seemed that her naming skills were on the same level as Grandma Flower's. At least mine is more suitable for your situation. Bailey Hongzhuang defended herself. Just take it as it is. Xiao He spread her hands. She looked like she could say whatever she wanted. Little Blossom, they are my new friends. You haven't been here for a while, so you don't know them. They are now staying at Grandma Flower's house. You will see them often in the future. Let me introduce them to you. Zhongli Mu introduced Bailey Hongzhuang and the others to Little Blossom. Only then did the vigilance in Little Blossom's eyes disappear. There was a hint of familiarity. However, facing Xiao Xuanzi's gaze, its gaze changed. Why is this guy looking at me so strangely? So pretty. Xiao Xuanzi looked at Little Blossom with infatuation. When Zhongli Mu introduced himself, he took a step forward. Beautiful beast, I am Xiao Xuanzi. Little Blossom looked at Xiao Xuanzi strangely, but didn't say anything. Seeing this, Xiao Xuanzi went to Little Blossom's side. Little Blossom, your name is so nice. I just came to the abandoned immortal forest not long ago. They are all cultivating. It's so boring. Why don't you bring me around? Hose before brothers, Di Beichen sighed. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. Looking at Xiao Xuanzi's flattering face, she said, Di Beichen, Xiao Xuanzi is quite good at chasing after beasts. Did he learn it from you? That's not it. Di Beichen shook his head. If you want to talk about spoiling your wife, he should have learned it from me. When I chased after you, Xiao Xuanzi wasn't even born yet. Tisk tsk. Shang Guaninging shrugged. That's too mushy. I can't take it anymore. Let's go cultivate first. I'm afraid little Xuanzi is gifted in this aspect. When Xiren thought of little Xuanzi's previous performance and made a judgment. Zhongli Mu also noticed that little Xuanzi was particularly interested in Little Flower. However, he felt that little Xuanzi wouldn't have much of a chance because Little Flower's standards were very high. As expected, Little Blossom, who had been silent all this while, finally spoke. I'm not free. It was just two simple words, but Xiao Xuanzi's flattering smile immediately froze. Zhongli Mu, I'll be leaving first. After Little Flower said that, he turned and walked in another direction. When his huge body walked, there was a rumbling sound again. Xiao Xuanzi, I think you should just forget about it. Di Beichen muttered and was about to pull Xiao Xuanzi to cultivate together. However, when they turned around, everyone realized that little Xuanzi had already disappeared. They could vaguely hear Xiao Xuanzi's voice. It's okay if you're not free. I'll go with you wherever you want to go. I'm free anyway. Everyone stood stiffly on the spot. They only saw an imperial wind horse elephant quickly moving forward with a mystical fire demonic rock following closely beside it. The imperial wind horse elephant seemed to dislike the mystical fire demonic rock and increased its speed. However, the mystical fire demonic rock didn't seem to feel the other party's rejection and continued to follow closely. The imperial wind horse elephant is very good at speed, but the mystical fire demonic rock is also very good at speed. I wonder which one of them is faster. Mo Yunjue coldly said. Chapter 5702. Not long later, Xiao Xuanzi came back, but his face was bruised and swollen. Seeing this scene, everyone was not surprised. After all, this guy was so friendly and was so talkative, the imperial wind horse elephant must not be able to take it, so it directly beat him up. Xiao Xuanzi, that imperial wind horse elephant is bigger than you. I think you won't be able to control it. When Xiren looked at Xiao Xuanzi who still had a nosebleed on his face and comforted him. Di Beichen who was practicing his sword turned his head and helplessly shook his head. I think that imperial wind horse elephant is stronger than you better raise your cultivation first. Xiao Xuanzi's eyes lit up. Master, why did you say the same thing as Little Blossom? It said that I'm not strong enough, it doesn't like me like this. Then you should give up. Xiao Bai rolled his eyes. Among them, Xiao Xuanzi was the one who didn't do his job the most. How can I do that? Xiao Xuanzi's face was serious, didn't I say? Beating is affection and scolding is love. It beat and scolded me, I think you all know what it means. It said that I'm not strong enough, it must be because it hates iron for not becoming steel. Female beasts always care about their face. Wait until I'm stronger than her, she will accept me. Everyone who was originally sympathetic to Xiao Xuanzi did not want to say anything after hearing Xiao Xuanzi's words. This guy's face was thicker than a city wall. Although his face was injured, his heart was not hurt at all. Am I wrong? Xiao Xuanzi's face was filled with pride. Annoying. Too annoying. Everyone turned their heads, they might as well cultivate. Although everyone was not optimistic about Xiao Xuanzi and Little Blossom, what was worth being happy about was that Xiao Xuanzi was cultivating harder. The mystic fire demon rock was a high-level existence among the beasts, there was a bloodline left behind from ancient times in its body, its cultivation talent was not weak at all. Once it cultivated with all its might, the results were not bad. Noticing this, everyone revealed a satisfied expression. Although Xiao Xuanzi's love came out of nowhere, it still had the effect of promoting. We've been here for a while, it's time to go back and take a look, Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly. Back in the desert world and the ocean world, 3 days inside the desert world was equivalent to 1 day outside. Ever since they came to the abandoned immortal forest, time had returned to normal. Because this was the immortal region, a previously uninhabited world. Indeed. We also need to go back and buy some things. Di Beichen nodded. The most important thing was to see his parents-in-law. They were all used to staying in the abandoned immortal forest, but they couldn't forget about their family. He didn't know if the Xiao family and the Jun family would make any moves in these 2 months. Are you guys going back? Zhongli Mu couldn't help but ask when he heard the discussion between Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Di Beichen nodded. Let's go back and take a look today. If everything is fine, we'll come back. All right. Zhongli Mu replied with a smile. After making the decision, everyone returned to Granny Hua's residence. It was currently noon. Before they left, they had to complete their mission. When everyone returned, they found Granny Hua brewing medicine in the courtyard. After thinking for a while, everyone guessed that this was probably a medicinal bath prepared for them at night. Why are you back so early today? Chapter 5703. Granny Hua, we were planning to go back today, so we came back first. Bailey Hongzhuang's smile was bright and beautiful. After getting along for 2 months, she really liked this kind and lovely old man. Hearing this, Granny Hua was not surprised. She nodded calmly and smiled, looks like these old fellows are going to complain while you're gone. Everyone smiled. Now that the seniors' food was spoiled by them, if they were to eat the usual food, they would probably think that it tasted bad. Granny, if there's nothing else, we'll be back soon. Granny Hua stopped what she was doing, I was preparing the medicinal bath for you tonight, but since you're going back today, I'll pass this medicine to you. Everyone was surprised. They had asked about it before, but Granny Hua had never told them. You've consumed a lot of energy during your daily cultivation, so the medicinal bath will be very helpful for your bodies. If you're fine after you go back, continue to soak and don't fall behind. Everyone could not help but feel touched. Thank you, Granny Hua. Granny Hua smiled and waved her hand, you little fellows are really polite. You've been thanking me all day, and you'll learn from Mu in the future. Mu won't thank you. Zhongli Mu did not think that he would be pulled out of nowhere, and immediately felt embarrassed. Grandfather said that we're already very familiar with each other, so there's no need for such formalities. That's right. Granny Hua nodded, there's no need for formalities between familiar people. Everyone smiled, knowing that Granny Hua treated them as one of her own. I didn't know that you were going to leave, so I didn't prepare more medicine. Granny Hua turned to look at Bailey Hongzhuang. I see that you've been wanting to learn for a long time, so I'll pass this prescription to you today. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but be stunned. Then, her face was filled with joy. Previously, when she had felt the effects of this medicinal bath, she had hoped to be able to master it. This was because the benefits it provided to cultivators were too great. Expelling the impurities in the body was extremely important to any cultivator, but it was very difficult to do so. She always thought that if she could learn it, she would be able to let her family take a medicinal bath as well. Unfortunately, she didn't know enough about many of the medicinal herbs in the immortal domain, so even if she studied the medicinal herbs in this medicinal bath every day, there were still some aspects that she couldn't determine. She had also tested Granny Hua before, but Granny Hua had never told her. She did not expect Granny Hua to be willing to teach her today. Most importantly, it turned out that Granny Hua had already seen through her thoughts. Before she could say a word of thanks, Bailey Hongzhuang swallowed it back. She then smiled brightly and said, "Granny Hua, you're so nice." Granny Hua smiled and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a satisfied expression. "That's more like it. I see that you seem to be very interested in medicine. If you want to learn, I can teach you when I have time in the future." Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes lit up and her pretty face became even more dazzling due to her excitement. The corners of her lips kept rising and it seemed like she was about to lose control. "If Granny is willing to teach, I'll definitely learn it well." Granny Hua chuckled and handed the medicine she had prepared to Bailey Hongzhuang. Then, she wrote another prescription. Chapter 5704. There are still some medicinal ingredients here, you can bring them back. Granny Hua pointed at the medicinal ingredients not far away. These were originally prepared for you guys. Looking in the direction that Granny Hua was pointing at, everyone realized that the medicinal ingredients that Granny Hua had been drying these past few days were all prepared for them. Bailey Hongzhuang, who was proficient in medicinal ingredients, understood that although Granny Hua had been drying medicinal ingredients previously, there weren't so many of them. Later on, these were all prepared for them. Thinking about it, after they went to cultivate, Granny Hua hadn't been idle and had gone to pick medicinal ingredients. Although the abandoned immortal forest was rich in medicinal ingredients, they consumed quite a lot of them every day, so Granny Hua had probably spent a lot of time. For a moment, everyone was moved. Compared to what Granny Hua had done for them, their daily lives were nothing. Before leaving, Granny Hua took out a few medical books and handed them to Bailey Hongzhuang. "If you have time, take a look at these medical books. There are many types of medicinal ingredients in them. Only by understanding the types of medicinal ingredients will you be able to learn faster from me in the future." Looking at the heavy medical books in her hands, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded seriously. "Granny, I will definitely remember the contents of these books. Since you're so serious, I believe you." Granny Hua's eyes were filled with admiration. "It's been a long time since I've seen such lovable children. Go back and come back when you're free. This sword move isn't finished yet." Everyone nodded. After practicing for 2 months, although everyone had made quite a bit of progress compared to when they had just arrived, they were still far from reaching Zhongli Mu's level. "Hongzhuang, your dream has come true. Granny Hua is willing to teach you." Sheng Guaniying had a smile on her face. She knew that Hongzhuang had this thought, but she didn't say it out loud. "That's right," Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. "Granny Hua isn't only skilled in medicine, she's also skilled in alchemy. Previously, President Lu told me that a grade 10 alchemist is much stronger than a grade 9 alchemist. Previously, I didn't know the difference between a grade 10 alchemist and a grade 10 alchemist, but I'm certain that Granny Hua is an existence that surpasses a grade 10 alchemist." Her ink-black phoenix eyes were filled with certainty. Even though she had never truly seen Granny Hua concoct dawn, she could feel the strength of Granny Hua's foundation just by looking at her occasionally. An alchemist who surpasses the 10th grade? Xiren couldn't help but be surprised. He's actually that powerful. Not only Granny Hua, but the other seniors are also very powerful existences. Di Beichen's face turned serious. Even such a peerless expert lives in the abandoned immortal forest. I wonder how terrifying the immortal domain is. Hearing this, everyone couldn't help but fall silent. The current situation in the sky had already made them deeply aware of how terrifying the immortal domain was. The difference in strength between the upper realm and the immortal domain was truly shocking. Back then, even Bai Yunjiao and He Xinjun couldn't escape this calamity. Let's not think about this for now. In any case, we still have time. Bailey Hongzhuang's laughter broke the heavy atmosphere. Don't all experts cultivate? Who knows, when the time comes, we might also become experts in the immortal domain. That's right, I have confidence in us. Shang Guanying raised her arms high with a face full of confidence. After coming out of the primordial chaos ring, everyone opened the room. Chapter 5705. If you come out, we have something to talk about. When they saw the note on the door, everyone looked at each other and immediately walked out. Di Beichen, Hong Zhuang, you guys go and see what's going on. We'll wait here for your news. Mo Yinjue said in a deep voice. Okay, then we'll go first. Di Beichen nodded. He didn't say anything else and quickly rushed out with Bailey Hongzhuang. They didn't know when this note was written, and they didn't know if it was too late. Logically speaking, everything has been very calm for a while. There shouldn't be any problems. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned and kept thinking, could it be that the Xiao family and the Jun family did something again? I don't know. Di Beichen shook his head. The Xiao family and the Jun family don't dare to confront us directly. If they called us here, then it should be about Jun Lingshuan and Xiao Soul. The two immediately rushed to the patriarch's residence and met Di Xiaofeng on the way. Seeing the two appear, Di Xiaofeng let out a sigh of relief. You two finally appeared. Big brother, what happened? Actually, it's not a big deal. It's just that the Xiao family and the Jun family have some movements recently. Father wants to inform you in advance. Also, there's an opportunity to gain experience. Father wants us to go together. After hearing this news, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen let out a sigh of relief. As long as it wasn't a very serious matter, then they could think of a way to deal with it. Father happens to be in the study. You guys can go directly. Okay. When Di Yujue saw Di Beichen and Mo Yunjue, a comfortable smile appeared on his face. You're out. Di Beichen smiled and nodded, you can say so. Di Yujue carefully sized up the two of them, and a wisp of surprise quietly flashed across his brows. He has already broken through to Nebula Stage 9. It seems that the results of this period of seclusion are not bad. Father, we've always been working hard on our cultivation. We don't dare to slack off at all. Di Beichen was all smiles. Although they had been practicing their swordsmanship for a while, their cultivation was also steadily improving. This speed was even faster than when he cultivated all day. It was precisely because he had exhausted all his origin power that his cultivation speed was even faster. Zhongli Mu had been using this method to cultivate since he was young. It was hard for him not to improve his strength. I can see that. Di Yujue nodded. His handsome face had one word written on it, satisfaction. Father, I heard from Big Brother that the Jun family and the Xiao family seem to have made some moves. Di Beichen returned to the main topic. He was still very concerned about this point. Di Yujue's expression also became more serious as he said, indeed, this is the news I heard a few days ago. I heard that Jun Lingshuan and Xiao Sou found a new master and are now learning from that master. It can be said that they are improving at lightning speed. New master. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. Which powerful senior is it? This person is called Shu Yu. He is a famous expert in the upper realm. Usually, there are many cultivators who want to learn from him, but he has never taken in any disciples. I don't know why he took in Xiao Sou and Jun Lingxuan as his disciples this time. Di Yujue's face darkened. When he heard this news, his heart sank. This wasn't good news at all. Chapter 5706. If it was someone else, I wouldn't have to worry. However, Shu Yu is different. Shu Yu is a publicly recognized expert. I heard that there is a higher realm beyond the upper realm. However, that person was very vague about it. Even if I wanted to know more about it, I didn't have the chance to. This Shu Yu had once been to that higher world. Di Yujue's face darkened. He looked at the sky outside the house. I went to see that person before. His cultivation and knowledge are far beyond ordinary cultivators. However, he rejected Xiao Feng as his disciple. All these years, he hasn't accepted any disciples. I thought that he had given up on the idea. I didn't expect them to take the initiative. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other. They were surprised. They wanted to ask Di Yujue about this. However, they didn't expect Di Yujue to bring it up first. If they guessed correctly, the higher realm should be the crossing immortal domain. However, they didn't know how Shu Yu came back after going to the crossing immortal domain. Father, is the place you're talking about the crossing immortal domain? Di Beichen asked. You know about the crossing immortal domain? Di Yujue was surprised. He asked in confusion, how do you know about the crossing immortal domain? Even he had only heard about this place once. He didn't know about the situation there. He didn't expect Di Beichen to know about this place. It was too shocking. I heard about it from the owner of the historical remains. Di Beichen made up a story. He wanted to tell Di Yujue about the Chaos Ring. However, after they brought Mo Yunjue to the abandoned immortal forest, Senior Zhongli told them not to tell anyone about this secret. Although they didn't know why Senior Zhongli told them that, it wasn't good for them to keep bringing people in. After all, the seniors had only accepted the appearance of the few of them. Otherwise, if they had brought in all the familiar faces, the seniors would probably have ignored them. Granny Hua already spent a lot of time preparing the medicinal baths for them every day. It was impossible for them to teach everyone. As such, they could only do so. I see. Listening to Di Beichen's words, Di Yujue did not doubt him. Di Beichen's darkness attribute talent was so outstanding, he knew that the owner of the ruins was definitely not a simple person. It was not strange that he knew about the existence of the crossing immortal domain. Then what did that senior say? Di Beichen pondered and shook his head. Senior didn't mention too much about it. I only heard that the crossing immortal domain is the place where cultivators from the upper realm ascend. However, the crossing immortal domain is only a place for transitional immortals. If you want to truly become an immortal, you have to enter the immortal domain. There is an immortal domain above the crossing immortal domain. Di Yujue was stunned. Obviously, he didn't expect there to be two places that were even higher. Apart from the shock on his face, there was also a trace of complexity. Seems like I'm truly ignorant and inexperienced. I've actually never heard of this immortal realms before. Father, the Xingxian continent is so big. It's normal that there are many places that we don't know about. Chapter 5707. This Shu Yu should have gone to the crossing immortal domain. As for how he came back, I don't know. Di Yujue aside, that place is an existence of a higher level. For him to be able to go there, it shows that his cultivation has surpassed most of the people in the upper realm. At least, my strength is not as good as his. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen seemed to have suddenly understood why Di Yujue was so worried. Since Di Yujue was not Shu Yu's opponent, there was probably no one in the family who could be his opponent. If Shu Yu stood on the side of the Di family and Xiao family, or even helped them to deal with the Di family, things would become much more troublesome. Such a big family seemed to have a deep foundation, but for a true expert, it was not difficult to deal with them. To catch bandits, one must first catch the leader. As long as the backbone was taken care of, the rest would just be a plate of loose sand. The two of them also felt the threat. If that was really the case, they would have to think of a way. Father, when the boat reaches the bridge head, everything will be fine. Although I don't know why Shu Yu is willing to help them, things may not necessarily turn for the better. Di Beichen consoled, but deep in his eyes, there was a serious and worried look. To him, the Di family was worth protecting with his life. According to what I know, the crossing immortal domain is also a place that the immortal domain looks down on. Only those who perform well in the crossing immortal domain can go to the immortal domain. If this Shu Yu really had the strength, he would not still be in the upper realm. Father, don't worry too much. I believe that the upper realm does not have only one true expert. There will always be a way. Bailey Hongzhuang also consoled. The tall and sturdy man in front of them carried the entire family on his shoulders so that they could have a stable environment. Thinking about it, ever since Shu Yu took Jun Lingxuan and Di Yujue as his disciples, Di Yujue had not been able to eat or sleep in peace. Oh. There is actually such a thing. Di Yujue was a little surprised. He felt as if he had seen a wider world, one that was completely beyond his imagination. Di Beichen nodded. Father, there's no point in thinking about this now. The most important thing is that we have to raise our cultivation as soon as possible. Who knows, maybe we can go to the immortal domain together in the future. You little brat, you really dare to dream. Di Yujue chuckled, but the haze between his eyebrows was blown away by Di Beichen's words. However, what you said makes sense. Who said that we can't go? The atmosphere in the room became relaxed. Di Yujue spoke again, this time, other than telling you this, I have another thing to tell you. An ancient battlefield had suddenly appeared in the desert near Shihan City in the northwest. Currently, it was covered by a dense fog. Although some people had already entered, they still couldn't see the situation clearly. The only thing that can be confirmed is that there are many treasures left behind from ancient times. Therefore, all the major forces have decided to send the younger generation to explore. Di Yujue's gaze swept across Di Beichen and Di Yujue's faces. He said in a deep voice, there are definitely many treasures in the ancient battlefield. However, the danger is also very high. This time, both you and Xiaofeng will be going. In addition, some outstanding cultivators from the family will also be going. Last time in the Immortal Cloud Mystery Realm, your performance was very good and made our family the biggest beneficiary. Chapter 5708. Father, why would an ancient battlefield suddenly appear in the northwest? Di Beichen was a little surprised. This was also an accidental discovery. Di Yujue shook his head and lamented, previously, a dense fog suddenly appeared in the northwest and a large area of fog enveloped the entire desert. Western Han City felt that this was a little coincidental and sent some soldiers to investigate, but these soldiers never returned. After that, they realized that there was something fishy about this matter and Western Han City issued this mission to the Mercenary Association. Because the reward was very generous, many mercenaries went there. It seems that a mercenary accidentally touched the opening of this ancient battlefield, and then the ancient battlefield appeared. A mercenary discovered it. Di Beichen was slightly surprised, that means that many mercenaries have already entered. No, after the ancient battlefield appeared, some experts went to check it out and found that the restriction on it had not completely dissipated. I'm afraid that we can't go in for the time being, but there is an extremely dense energy near the ancient battlefield. Cultivating there will yield twice the results with half the effort. Recently, many cultivators have already taken the lead to head there. Even cultivating there is extremely good. When I said enter, I meant entering the fog. It is said that this fog will cause cultivators to lose their way, so the soldiers sent by Western Han City did not return. Di Beichen and Li Zhenhuang also understood. It seemed that this fog was very strange. This time, Jun Lingxuan and Xiao Sou will also be going. They have improved quite a bit recently, and the two families have spent a lot of resources to nurture them. Their strength cannot be underestimated. You have to be careful. Di Yujue's expression sank slightly, and his brows were tightly knitted together. After experiencing the previous incident, it could be said that they were enemies and their eyes burned with hatred when they met. He did not know what methods Shu Yu would teach the two of them, so he could not help but be worried. However, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were clearly not that worried. If Xiao Sou and Li Zhenhuang were cultivating with Shu Yu, then they were cultivating with Senior Yu, who was not inferior at all. Although they've improved, we've also improved a lot. Di Beichen looked relaxed. Father, don't worry. They were defeated by us in the past, and they will still be defeated by us in the future. It's good that you're confident, but don't underestimate the enemy, Di Yujue warned. We understand. Since you've already exited your closed-door cultivation, then don't delay and head to Western Desert City as soon as possible. Di Yujue said, your mother has already prepared the things you need to bring this time. She's just waiting for you to come out of seclusion. Let's pack up and set off immediately. By the way, other than the cultivators from the various major factions, the Mercenary Union will also send people in. After all, the Mercenary Union was the one who discovered the ancient battlefield. The top experts of the major forces won't enter, but the Mercenary Union is a place where all kinds of people will be present. There are many unknown factors in this trip, but your life is the most important. Before leaving, Di Yujue couldn't help but remind him again. This was the concern from a father. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen smiled and nodded. We'll definitely return safely. After leaving the room, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but sigh. I didn't expect that we would have to set off so soon after returning. Chapter 5709. Beichen, go and inform everyone to get ready. I will concoct some more of this medicine. Leave some at home and take some with you. Bailey Hongzhuang said. When she came back, she had already looked through the formula of this medicine. It was not difficult to concoct it. However, it was limited in the amount of herbs. If it was only the few of them, the amount would be enough. However, there were more people in the clan, so it was not enough. Di Beichen naturally understood Bailey Hongzhuang's plan. He immediately nodded and said, okay, then you go first. The two immediately divided the work. Bailey Hongzhuang quickly returned to her residence. Xiao He and Xiao Bai also followed closely by Bailey Hongzhuang's side. They had experience in this area. Even if they worked together now, their speed was extremely fast. Di Beichen first informed Xiren and the others that he was leaving this time. Then, he went to see Lin Yunqing. When everything was settled, Bailey Hongzhuang also came out of the house. Wife, is everything ready? Di Beichen asked with a smile. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. The concoction of the medicine is relatively simple. It is also very fast. As an excellent alchemist, concocting medicine was a piece of cake for her. Lin Yunqing, Di Yujue, Xia Wanrong and Di Lin Xian all came. After hearing the conversation between the two, Lin Yunqing could not help but ask, Beichen, you just said that Hongzhuang is preparing a gift. What is it that is so mysterious? Hearing this, Di Beichen gave Bailey Hongzhuang a look. Hongzhuang then handed the storage bag to Lin Yunqing. Mother, this is the medicine I concocted. It will help the cultivator expel the impurities in the body and increase the speed of cultivation. When she said this, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but feel a little guilty. This was completely Granny Hua's potion formula. However, because she could not reveal the existence of Granny Hua, she could only do it herself. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone was stunned. Di Lin Xian's eyes were filled with surprise. What kind of medicine is this? It can actually expel the impurities in the body. Not only Di Lin Xian, but Di Yujue and the others also had the same expression. There were very few pills that had this kind of effect, let alone a medicine. After undergoing marrow cleansing, it was extremely difficult to achieve such a feat. No one would have thought that such a medicine would exist. However, Hongzhuang had suddenly taken it out. Everyone was pleasantly surprised. I found it by chance. I haven't had the time to name it yet. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled helplessly. In short, the effect of this medicine is very good. It's best to cultivate until you're exhausted before taking the medicinal bath. The improvement effect will be even more obvious. Hongzhuang is really amazing. She always surprises us. Lin Yunqing smiled. Xiren and the others who were at the side also smiled. Hongzhuang had always wanted to get the formula of this medicine from Granny Hua. Now that she had gotten her wish, the first thing she did was to benefit her family. Mother, are my father and the others still in closed-door cultivation? I've already sent someone to inform them. However, they've been in closed-door cultivation for a while. Although we don't know the exact situation, we can hear the sound of a breakthrough from time to time. It can be seen that the breakthrough speed is extremely fast. Then I'll go and say goodbye to them before leaving. When Bailey Hongzhuang was on her way to the cultivation room, she met Xiao Sou and the others who were rushing over. Chapter 57:10. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. The news came so suddenly. I'm afraid we'll have to spend a lot of time on this trip. This is a rare opportunity to gain experience. Who knows, we might be able to raise our cultivation by quite a bit. Let's go if we can. Di Yujue smiled. As a youngster, he naturally had to give it a try. Mu Lingbing was a bit worried. I heard that this place is very dangerous. Many people don't come out after entering. You must be careful. Don't worry. Beichen and Hongzhuang have also been to many places to gain experience. In my opinion, they have more experience than you. Situ Yan smiled at Mu Lingbing. Hearing Situ Yan's words, Mu Lingbing thought about it and agreed. Just take the upper realm for example. Hongzhuang and Beichen had fought their way up. Beichen, you have to take good care of Hongzhuang, Mu Jins reminded. Grandmother, don't worry. With me here, I definitely won't let anything happen to Hongzhuang. At the same time, when Jinghui was also instructing Xiren and Shengguan Yingying. To cultivators, gaining experience was a very normal thing. However, as an elder, he couldn't help but worry. After all, there were unavoidable risks in the training grounds. Especially in the upper realm, there were many unknowns. Mother, we're about to set off. You should stay here for a while. This is a medicine I concocted. It's very helpful for cultivation. Soak in it every night. Bailey Hongzhuang handed the medicine to Mu Lingbing. Father, other than cultivating every day, there are many demon beasts in the back mountain. It's very suitable for training. Di Beichen explained the best way to use the medicine. He could feel that Lan Yunxiao and the rest's cultivation had been rapidly increasing. However, just increasing their cultivation wasn't enough. Fighting was more important. Go in peace. Don't worry about us. We'll be here waiting for you to come back. Lan Yinxiao's face was full of smiles. His handsome face was full of concern, but his eyes, which others couldn't see, were filled with worry. After everything was prepared, everyone set off. Other than them, Bailey Yunyan and many other cultivators from the D family were also traveling with them. In a situation like this where there were forces from all sides, the number of people could still give them an advantage. The one leading the team was still the Great Elder. After the first experience, everyone was already familiar with the route. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others sat on Di Beichen's flying car and followed the First Elder's flying car to the northwest. It's said that the mercenary guild will also send people over. I wonder if Huang Futing and the others will be there as well. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes lit up. They hadn't seen Huang Futing since he said he was going to train. Because they were in a hurry, they didn't have time to go to Emperor Cloud City to ask. Based on my judgment of Huang Futing, this opportunity, he shouldn't miss it. Di Beichen pondered and said, and this matter has been spreading like wildfire. I think they must also know that we will be there. Maybe they are already waiting for us. If that's really the case, then that's not bad. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. This is a very good opportunity to train. If we can get some good fortune, that would be even better. Chapter 57:11. Yunju, you've been in the mercenary union all this time, so you should have some understanding of it. Why don't you tell us about the situation? Di Beichen turned to look at Di Yujue. So far, he had not been to the mercenary union, so he did not know much about the situation there. The mercenary union in the upper realm is not much different from the lower realm, but the strength of the mercenaries here is stronger. Many idle cultivators gather here and form mercenary teams. I heard that many people from different forces also come here to train, and I met them when I was training. Moreover, the upper realm is vast, and there are many special places, so the missions are divided into different categories. Then did you encounter any trouble when you went there? When Xiren asked, usually, a Shao Bai face like yours should be easily disliked by those burly men, right? Mo Yunjue turned to look at Xiren. Do I look like a Shao Bai face? His cold gaze was as sharp as a knife, and with just a look, the air seemed to be frozen. When Xiren spread out his hands and said resentfully, okay, you're not. You brat, just Yunju's gaze is enough to shut those burly men up. Shangguan Yingying chuckled. However, I can be sure that Yunju's mission in the mercenary union will be very smooth. Why? Think about it, Yunju is so handsome, the girls in the mercenary union will probably stare at him. Isn't it easy to complete the mission? Shangguan Yingying said matter-of-factly. As soon as she said that, everyone turned to look at Mo Yunjue, but the latter did not say anything. Bailey Hongzhuang gave Shangguan Yingying a look of admiration. She saw through it at a glance. Huang Futing has his own team. I noticed that someone wanted to join his team, but he rejected them. At that time, I thought it was a little strange because that person was not weak, and they just happened to be going on a difficult mission, so they should not have rejected. Later, I found out that they were dark cultivators, and everything became clear. I see. Di Beichen understood. It's inevitable that someone would see through it. Previously, he had been worried about this problem. Once he was targeted, it would be troublesome. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. Not everyone has such good eyesight as Yunjue. There are still very few people who find it. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest arrived at Western Desert City, they discovered that the entire city was bustling with noise and excitement. The huge city was already filled with people, and this scene was comparable to the grand occasion in Piercing Wind City. These people want to enter the ancient battlefield? Xiren was surprised. He didn't know how big the ancient battlefield was. Would these people fill up the entire ancient battlefield? This time, the sudden appearance of the ancient battlefield made it impossible to prevent the news from spreading. Moreover, the number of people in the mercenary association was already very large, so it was impossible to control. Although the various major forces have already limited the range of cultivators' strength, you still have to be careful. No one can guarantee that there won't be people who will fish in troubled waters, the great elder warned. Everyone nodded. The current situation was far beyond their control. Chapter 57:12. The ancient battlefield appeared in the desert outside Shihan City. The people gathered in the city are mainly new cultivators. Of course, there are also many merchants. With so many people here, the business opportunities are naturally limitless. The great elder smiled faintly as he led everyone forward. The information we have is from the past. Different things happen here every day, so before we go, I have to understand the latest situation. If there are no problems, I will bring you all along. Hearing this, everyone nodded. Because Di Beichen and the others were in seclusion and had been on the road for a while, the news the Di family received was from half a month ago. No one knew if anything else had happened in this half a month. Beichen, your family is really big. No matter which city you go to, you have your own people. Xiren looked at the old man who was happily chatting with the great elder and couldn't help but sigh. Our family has stood tall for so many years, so we have some relationship with most cities. It's not just us, the other families are the same. Di Xiaofeng smiled. Even if they didn't have any relationship before, they will definitely send people to investigate after this incident. So as long as we come, we will definitely get the latest news. I see. Xiren understood. Although the Cloud Sword sect's influence in the lower realm wasn't small, it was undeniable that they couldn't do this. While the Great Elder was understanding the situation, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were sizing up the situation in the city. All kinds of cultivators were gathered here. There were cultivators entering the city at every moment, and these cultivators often formed teams one after another. The entire city was bustling with noise and excitement. Pill shops, weapon shops, and other cultivation-related shops were all bustling with business. One could even vaguely hear that they were sold out. This is probably the most lively Shihan city has been in these years. Di Xiaofeng smiled and shook his head. In the past, although Shihan city wasn't small, because of its remote location, it wasn't very lively. Every time this small world appears, it can always bring about a city. Bailey Yunyan smiled faintly. They had obviously heard of this situation many times. Look, that person looks familiar. Is he from the Shao clan? Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze locked onto a man in front of her. She remembered seeing him in the Piercing Wind City before. Everyone followed Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze. The man was also sizing up Bailey Hongzhuang. Only when he felt everyone's gaze did he turn his head and stop watching. That's right. This person is from the Shao clan, Di Beichen affirmed. We came late this time. I believe that the Jun family and the Shao family have already arrived. Di Xiaofeng spread out his hands, but his expression was very calm. Soon, you will see most of the people you met in the Immortal Cloud Mystic Realm. Murong Jing, Chen Feng, and Jiang Wenyan should have arrived as well, right? A faint smile appeared on his chiseled face. It was like the sun in March, warm and bright. Di Xiaofeng nodded. They won't miss such an opportunity. Chapter 57:13. Look, isn't that the Saint of Light? Among the crowd, a cultivator's gaze locked onto Bailey Hongzhuang. After taking a closer look, he could not help but cry out in surprise. As soon as he said that, he immediately attracted the attention of many cultivators. Everyone turned their heads, and a look of pleasant surprise appeared on their faces. That's the Di family's team. That's right, that's the Saint of Light. If it weren't for the incident in Western Desert City, I'm afraid I wouldn't have had the chance to see the real Saint of Light. Many curious and pleasantly surprised gazes landed on Bailey Hongzhuang. The incident of the Sacred Assembly of Light had already spread throughout the entire upper realm several months ago. As for the portrait of the Saint of Light, it had also spread to every branch of the Sacred Assembly of Light. Everyone had long heard that the Saint of Light was as beautiful as a fairy. When they saw the portrait, they already had such a feeling. It was only when they saw her in person that they were shocked. In a short time, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were surrounded by many cultivators. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others did not expect such a situation to occur. They were all stunned, and could not help but smile. "My wife, your reputation is now much greater than mine. Your husband will have to rely on you in the future." Di Beichen chuckled. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Di Beichen. "I'll think about it." The Di family came a little late this time. The Xiao family and the Jun family came a while ago. It looks like there's going to be a good show to watch. Isn't that so? I think that with the appearance of the ancient battlefield this time, the relationship between the three great forces might change again. The complicated relationship between the three great families had long been known to everyone. Especially after Bailey Hongzhuang took away the position of the Saint of Light, this conflict could be said to have risen to the peak. There had been no news for several months, and it was likely that something was going to happen again. The Great Elder was originally chatting with his family in Western Desert City when he suddenly realized that his team was almost surrounded by a group of cultivators. He immediately walked over. After discovering that everyone was interested in Bailey Hongzhuang's situation, he felt relieved and began to update everyone on the recent situation. There should still be some time before the ancient battlefield's restriction dissipates completely. Recently, the essence force that is spreading out is getting denser and denser. The surrounding cultivators have all come here because of its reputation. This is an excellent opportunity to raise their cultivation level. Almost all the cultivators from the major forces have arrived. Let's set off now. Hearing this, everyone nodded and immediately followed behind the first elder as they walked quickly towards the desert. It is said that the yuan qi emitted from the ancient battlefield far exceeds the yuan qi that one normally cultivates. Not only is it denser, but it also contains a unique law of heaven and earth. In this short period of time, many cultivators have already made breakthroughs, so all of you must also grasp this opportunity and work hard to improve your own cultivation, the Great Elder advised. Everyone looked at each other and became even more interested in this. I wonder what kind of heaven and earth yuan qi it is to have such a good effect. Bailey Hongzhuang pondered and said, "It's rare to have such a good opportunity. Why didn't Father and the others come together?" This kind of environment was not only beneficial to them, but also to all the cultivators. Chapter 57:14. I don't think everyone will turn a blind eye to such a good opportunity. Mo Yinjue said slowly. The Great Elder smiled faintly and said nothing. Everyone walked in the desert. Not long after, everyone found that a large number of cultivators appeared in front of them. They were densely packed and looked particularly conspicuous in this endless desert. In addition, everyone found that the desert, which was originally very clear, was shrouded in a layer of white mist, making the situation in front hazy and unclear. Noticing this scene, everyone knew that this was the place where the ancient battlefield appeared. With the appearance of Bailey Hongzhuang and her party, they immediately attracted a lot of people's attention. The Di family's people are finally here. Their speed is really slow this time. It's most likely that Di Beichen or Di Xiaofeng are in close cultivation, so they are late. Everyone looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and her party. Even if they didn't know the specific situation, they could guess it. Bailey Hongzhuang and others just casually glanced around and found many familiar forces. There were many tents. As far as the eye could see, the endless tents were lined up in a straight line. There was a flag hanging on these tents with the names of the major forces written on it. With a casual glance, Bailey Hongzhuang noticed the flags of the Shao family and the Jun family, which were very close to the center. There is our family's flag there. Di Xiaofeng pointed to a flag not far from the Shao family and said. Hearing this, everyone turned their eyes and found the Di family's flag fluttering in the wind. Great Elder, we've only just arrived, but you've already prepared everything? Di Beichen was a little surprised. He was worried that he would not be able to find a good position if he came late. Now it seemed that he was worried for nothing. The family master has sent people to occupy the position as soon as he heard the news. The Great Elder smiled and said, Look, the Lin family's team has also arrived. As soon as the Great Elder's voice fell, Lin Yi's figure had already appeared in everyone's sight. Second cousin, you're so late. Lin Yi smiled mischievously and got close to Bailey Hongzhuang. Second cousin-in-law, did something happen that delayed you? Previously, we were in seclusion and did not know about the ancient battlefield. Father was worried that it would affect our cultivation and did not disturb us. After we found out, we rushed over immediately. I see. Lin Yi understood, the vitality here is very rich. It's really suitable for cultivation. I broke through 2 days ago. You can't waste this good opportunity. With that said, Lin Yi held Bailey Hongzhuang's hand and walked forward. Her pretty face was full of sunshine. Di Xiaofeng looked at the smiling Lin Yi and quietly breathed a sigh of relief. As sharp as he was, he could still feel the change in Lin Yi's expression. Di Beichen patted Di Xiaofeng's shoulder. Yi is much better now. Don't worry. He also paid attention to Lin Yi's expression. In fact, since Lin Yi appeared, her eyes did not stay on Di Xiaofeng for a moment. It seemed that she deliberately did not look at him. But in any case, she was getting better. After so many years of love, it would not completely dissipate in a short time. What's more, there was still awkwardness now. This would take time to gradually dilute. Chapter 57:15. Lin Qianqian and Lin Taxing also smiled after seeing Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. We have been wondering why you haven't come yet. You have sharp eyes. Lin Qianqian smiled. Lin Yi raised her eyebrows. Of course, I saw my second cousin-in-law as soon as I turned my head. Bailey Hongzhuang had already felt the rich aura of heaven and earth as soon as she got close. In addition to being richer, this aura also had an unknown special aura. Perhaps this was the so-called rules of heaven and earth, which gave people an inexplicable feeling. Their thoughts seemed to be unprecedentedly clear. Even just being in this environment gave people a completely different feeling of comfort. Demon summoning scripture began to circulate unconsciously, absorbing the rich aura. All the cells in her body relaxed and greedily absorbed the aura. She could clearly feel that the aura in her body was constantly filling up. Cultivating in this environment was not only twice the result with half the effort, but the effect might be 3 times, 4 times, or even more. Not only Bailey Hongzhuang, but Di Beichen and the others also felt the change immediately. Their faces were filled with amazement. Such pure and rich aura, we can't even touch it on normal days. Di Xiaofeng was surprised, this aura can be directly absorbed. It's a good opportunity to improve. Judging from this aura, the ancient battlefield is an amazing place. The mercenary union has found a good opportunity this time. Mo Yunjue's expression was still cold, and there was no change on his cold face. Lin Taxing nodded and motioned everyone to look not far away. Look, those are the people from the mercenary union. The number is the most amazing. Looking in the direction Lin Taxing pointed, everyone found that the mercenary union's flag was flying in the distance. Its range was almost equal to all the other forces. The number of people from the mercenary union is already amazing. Plus, they were the first to discover it this time, so they have the advantage. In my opinion, the cultivators from the mercenary union are only a part of them. There are more cultivators on the way. In this regard, everyone was not surprised at all. The mercenary union could be said to have the largest number of people among all the organizations. Their management was also very lax. Even the cultivators in the organization were mostly mercenaries. I'm afraid it will be very lively when we enter the ancient battlefield this time, Bailey Hongzhuang said with a faint smile. A heavy look flashed across Lin Taxing's eyes. Actually, I can feel that the ancient battlefield this time is very different. It's much more powerful than the secret realms we've encountered before. Just the Yuan Qi alone has already far exceeded the past. Furthermore, I heard from some elders that the scale of this ancient battlefield is far beyond our imagination. As for what the situation inside is like, no one can say for sure, but the risk is probably unprecedented. Looking at Lin Taxing's solemn expression, everyone's heart sank. The former must have heard a lot of news. No matter what, this is an abandoned ancient battlefield. With so many of us going in, there shouldn't be too much of a problem, Di Xiaofeng said slowly. The solemn expression on his face didn't disappear. Have you heard that Xiao Shou and Jun Lingxuan have acknowledged Shu Yu as their master? Lin Qianqian suddenly asked. Chapter 57:16. I've already met Xiao Shou and Jun Lingxuan previously. This Shu Yu is indeed not simple. It's just that I haven't seen them for a while, but their cultivation progress is astonishing. Lin Qianqian's face sank. According to my judgment, they should have reached Nebula Stage 9. With Senior Shu Yu as their master, the two of them are even more arrogant than before. Their arrogance is soaring as if nothing happened. Nebula Stage 9. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned. They had been cultivating with all their might without slacking off. With Grandma Hua's medicinal bath, they had reached Nebula Stage 9. She didn't expect that Xiao Shou and Jun Lingxuan's cultivation had also risen to such a level. It seemed like this Shu Yu was indeed quite capable. Lin Qianqian nodded, that's right. Although I don't know why Senior Shu Yu accepted them as disciples, after this incident, I no longer have the same respect for Senior Shu Yu as before. Now that we're outside, they might have some misgivings. However, once we enter the ancient battlefield, they will definitely think of ways to deal with you. You have to be on your guard. Feeling Lin Qianqian's concern, Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze softened. She smiled faintly, Qianqian, thank you. We understand. Di Beichen, your speed this time is too slow. Speak of the devil. Just as everyone was talking about Jun Lingxuan, they discovered that Jun Lingxuan and Xiao Shou were following behind an old man. Before they even arrived, Jun Lingxuan's teasing voice could already be heard. Di Beichen turned his head. He didn't pay too much attention to Jun Lingxuan and Xiao Shou. Instead, his gaze locked onto the old man in front of them. Although it was his first time seeing him, he was certain that this person was the famous Shu Yu. A tyrannical aura was emitted from his body. It inexplicably gave people an indescribable sense of oppression. This kind of power simply didn't allow them to probe his cultivation. When their spiritual power got close, it would be suppressed. In other words, the other party's cultivation was much higher than theirs. As expected of a cultivator who has been to the crossing immortal domain. His cultivation is not to be underestimated, Bailey Hongzhuang said in a low voice. His cultivation should still be inferior to Senior Yu's. It's just that Senior Yu usually restrains his aura, so we can't sense it. Di Beichen looked at Shu Yu, who was slowly walking towards him. He was constantly making judgments in his heart. Didn't we come a little late to give you a chance? Di Beichen raised his face. His handsome face looked even more charming under the sunlight. A cold glint flashed across Jun Lingxuan's eyes. You're still as sharp-tongued as ever. You still like to be defeated, Di Beichen retorted indifferently. Xiao Sou's gaze was fixed on Bailey Hongzhuang. Now, whenever she saw Bailey Hongzhuang, she would feel uncomfortable. Only by making Bailey Hongzhuang disappear from this world would she be able to truly feel at ease. Bailey Hongzhuang, let's see who's stronger in this ancient battlefield, Xiao Sou said coldly. Recently, her cultivation had improved by leaps and bounds. She believed that Bailey Hongzhuang was no match for her. I'll accompany you to the end. Shu Yu sized up Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen without saying a word. At the same time, the great elder quietly stood beside Bailey Hongzhuang and Bailey Hongzhuang with a look of fear. After looking at them for a while, Shu Yu said indifferently, two pretty good young people. Chapter 57:17. It wasn't until Shu Yu left that first elder let out a sigh of relief, and his tense body also relaxed. First elder, are you all right? Di Xiaofeng asked with concern. First elder waved his hand, this Shu Yu is very strong. If he made a move, I wouldn't be able to resist. Fortunately, he didn't seem to have that intention. I really don't know what methods the Xiao and Jun family used to recruit him. This situation is really troublesome. Everyone looked at each other with complicated expressions. This Shu Yu's appearance was tantamount to giving the Di family a big problem. Master, why did you praise them just now? Xiao Sou couldn't help but ask after following Shu Yu back to the family's residence. She had always seen Bailey Hongzhuang as a thorn in her side. Hearing her master praise Bailey Hongzhuang in front of her, she was really unhappy to the extreme. Shu Yu glanced at Xiao Sou and said, these two juniors aren't simple. It's not strange that you lost to them. Why? Jun Lingxuan was also a little confused, but he wasn't as dissatisfied as Xiao Sou. Ever since he acknowledged Shu Yu as his master, he understood how powerful his master was. He believed that his master must have his reasons for saying this. I've already heard about the experiences of Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang. They didn't rely on the Di family to come to the upper realm, but rather fought their way up from the lower realm. You've never been to the lower realm, but you've always looked down on it. But have you ever thought about how difficult it was for these two youngsters to come to the upper realm with their own strength in that environment? Shu Yu took 2 steps forward, turned around, and continued, I just looked at them. They have a kind of tenacity that doesn't fear danger and a kind of determination that doesn't give up until they reach their goal. For cultivators, these 2 characteristics are very important. However, the 2 of you obviously can't compare to them in this aspect. Hearing Shu Yu's words, Jun Lingxuan and Xiao Sou both fell into silence. Although they were not convinced that they could not compare to others, they also understood that what Shu Yu said was reasonable. They had heard the same words from their father before, so they had to admit it. Shu Yu noticed their expressions and nodded. Not bad. You guys didn't rush to refute this time. Then, Master, are we no match for them? That's not it. Shu Yu shook her head. Know thyself and know thy enemy, and you will never be defeated. You must first know where you are inferior to others, and then improve yourself. What I'm afraid of is your arrogance. As long as you listen to my words and work hard, defeating them won't be difficult. Only then did Jun Lingxuan let out a sigh of relief, revealing a joyful smile. Master, we will definitely work hard. Actually, the gap between you guys has already shrunk. You guys are Nebula Stage 9, and they are also Nebula Stage 9. The gap isn't that big. They actually broke through to Nebula Stage 9. Xiao Sou was stunned. During this period of time, they had trained so hard to break through to Nebula Stage 9. Originally, they thought that they would be able to crush the other party, but they didn't expect that the other party had also broken through to the same realm. This feeling made her very unhappy. Chapter 57:18. Hearing Xu Yu's words, Jun Lingxuan and Xiao Sou fell silent. Actually, this was something that they were unwilling to think about. Bailey Hongzhuang and Xiao Yu's improvement after coming to the upper realm was indeed astonishing. Back then, the difference in strength between them was not small. However, in just a few years, Bailey Hongzhuang and Xiao Yu had not only caught up to them, they had even surpassed their cultivation. How could they, who had always been praised as geniuses, accept this? Most importantly, back in the Divine Cloud's secret realm, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen's taboo techniques were too shocking. Therefore, when they found out that they were both Nebula Rank 9 cultivators, their confidence in winning had already begun to waver. Under the same cultivation, they were very clear that they were no match for them. Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang's methods were enough to let them crush all cultivators of the same level. Although they did not think that they were weak, they still had some understanding in their hearts at this time. Xu Yu looked at Jun Lingxuan and Xiao Yu who had fallen silent. She did not want to hurt her two disciples too much, so she immediately said, "As cultivators, most of us are extremely hard-working. Aren't you guys working hard too? Don't take what happened in the past to heart. The past is the past. Now that you are my disciples, I will definitely make you the most outstanding young people. Do you understand?" Jun Lingxuan and Xiao Sou's spirits were lifted. Then, a strong sense of confidence appeared on their faces. Yes, Master. Previously, they had indeed lost to Di Beichen and Xiao Yu. However, now that they had the number one expert Xu Yu as their master, Bailey Hongzhuang and Xiao Yu obviously did not have such an opportunity. Therefore, this was their trump card to turn defeat into victory. Xu Yu nodded in satisfaction. Previously, I said so much because I hope that you guys will not be arrogant and complacent. Of course, there is no need to belittle yourselves. Accurately recognizing your own strength is the most important thing. The vitality that overflows from this ancient battlefield is the vitality of heaven and earth. It is the source of cultivation energy. Cultivating here will help you greatly improve your cultivation. You must grasp this opportunity and cultivate well. Before you have enough confidence to defeat your opponent, don't cause any trouble for the time being. Jun Lingxuan and Xiao Yu cupped their hands, their expressions serious and strict. "Master, thank you for your teachings. We will definitely remember it in our hearts and diligently cultivate. We will not cause any trouble. Go." Xu Yu's face, Xiao Yu and Xiao Yu Xiao Yu and Xiao Yu he was not very willing. After all, the conflict between these two little guys and Di Beichen could be said to be well known by everyone. Xu Yu Shu Yu and Xiao Shu. Now, it seemed that this was indeed the case. As for Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang, they were indeed good seedlings. However, since they were opponents, they could only become stepping stones. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen did not immediately start cultivating like everyone else when they arrived at the ancient battlefield. Instead, they looked towards the Mercenary Association's encampment. After a round of investigation, they saw a familiar figure in the Mercenary Association's team. Chapter 57:19. When he heard that the Xiao family's team had arrived, he immediately rushed out to take a look. As expected, he saw Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang. Huang Futing is really here. Di Beichen's lips curled into a smile, and his heart relaxed. At least now that he saw Huang Futing, it proved that they had been doing well in the mercenary guild and had not been discovered. I told you, with their abilities, there won't be any problems. Bailey Hongzhuang looked relaxed. This is good too. After entering the ancient battlefield, we will have a helping hand that others don't know about. Huang Futing was originally thinking about whether to get close to Di Beichen, but he saw the latter give him a look. He immediately stopped and understood Di Beichen's meaning. Now that all the major forces were gathered here, it might be best to pretend that they didn't know each other. The cultivators standing beside Huang Futing were also happy when they saw Di Beichen, but they were stopped by Huang Futing. Let's not expose our identities. It won't be too late to meet the young master after entering the ancient battlefield. Hearing this, everyone's expression froze and they all understood. It's easy for us to be noticed in the mercenary guild. If everyone knows about our relationship with the young master, it will be troublesome if more things are involved. Brother Huangfu, thank goodness you stopped us. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief. They had indeed thought too simply. This is also the young master's intention. Huang Futing smiled faintly. Now is a once-in-a-lifetime cultivation opportunity. Normally, it would be difficult for us to obtain cultivation resources. Now that we have such an opportunity, everyone has to grasp it and strive to raise their cultivation as soon as possible. Only then can we carry out our grand plan earlier. As soon as these words came out, everyone's expression was refreshed. Thinking about the dark sacred assembly, everyone felt as if they had been injected with chicken blood and were full of energy. In the past, they had been aimless and could not see the future and hope. Now, a bright path had appeared in front of them. Although the surroundings were full of thorns and obstacles, they were full of confidence. At the very least, they now had a goal to strive for, instead of living aimlessly like a walking corpse. I see a lot of familiar faces. It seems like they've all come here. Bailey Hongzhuang pretended to be indifferent as she quietly observed Huang Futing's surroundings. Many of the people she had seen in Emperor Cloud City appeared around Huang Futing. It's a rare opportunity. They won't miss it. Di Beichen smiled. Now we can rest assured. Let's go into the tent and cultivate. Jun Lingxuan and Xiao Sou had both broken through to Nebula Stage 9. It could be seen that Xu Yu indeed had some ability. They might be thinking about how to deal with us. We have to raise our cultivation as soon as possible and not give them any chance to take advantage of us. His deep and wise eyes were dignified. Although Di Beichen was very disdainful of Jun Lingxuan, it was undeniable that this person was an outstanding existence among the younger generation. What's more, with Xu Yu's guidance, Jun Lingxuan's recent cultivation speed was extremely fast. He had never looked down on anyone. A scholar who had been away for 3 days should be looked at with new eyes. They hadn't seen each other for such a long time. Jun Lingxuan had suffered such a huge blow that he might have put away his previous arrogance. All of this was very likely. And he could not lose. Chapter 57:20. Xu Yu's appearance was no different from a huge mountain pressing down on everyone's hearts. Everyone was worried that this person's appearance would bring about changes. Not only Di Beichen, but also Di Yujue could feel Di Yujue's worry when he first talked to Di Yujue. Bailey Hongzhuang knew Di Beichen very well. Although he never revealed anything on the surface, it was obvious that he had remembered everything in his heart. To him, there was no doubt about the importance of his family. He did not want any changes that could threaten his family's safety, so he would definitely think of a way to solve all of this. However, Xu Yu's strength was just too strong. At least for now, they were no match for him at all. Regarding this, she felt very helpless. Even if they had thought of a way, at least for now, there was no effective way. When the two of them returned to the tent, when Xiren and the rest opened their eyes. Hongzhuan, the vitality here is the vitality of heaven and earth. It is the source of energy that cultivators need. It is purer and more condensed than the vitality that we normally absorb. We must grab this good opportunity to absorb more vitality to strengthen our cultivation. Ling Er's voice was filled with surprise. Vitality of heaven and earth? Bailey Hongzhuang was surprised. It was her first time hearing this term. Ling Er nodded slightly. The vitality of heaven and earth is the purest form of vitality. It is very suitable for cultivators. The vitality that we normally absorb is derived from the vitality of heaven and earth. However, regardless of purity or concentration, it cannot be compared to the vitality of heaven and earth. The upper realm basically does not have the vitality of heaven and earth. This is a great supplement for cultivators. This also means that this ancient battlefield is probably a very strong existence. Hearing Ling Er's words, everyone had a higher opinion of this ancient battlefield. Then wouldn't this ancient battlefield be too strong? It's not a place that we can enter at all. Shangguan Yingying asked worriedly. Ling Er shook her head. This is an abandoned ancient battlefield. Logically speaking, there shouldn't be too much of a problem. However, we still have to be careful when we enter. Since this is a rare opportunity, let's not waste any more time and cultivate. Bailey Hongzhuang stopped the topic. No matter how dangerous the ancient battlefield was, since they were already here, they would not give up the opportunity to enter. Now that they were all Nebula Stage 9, they clearly remembered Granny Hua's warning. The most important thing now was to suppress his cultivation level. The more essence force he accumulated, the stronger his strength would become after breaking through. If it was any other day, this process would definitely be extremely long. But now, with the heaven and earth yuan qi, this process could be greatly shortened. It was truly a heaven-sent opportunity. As soon as Bailey Hongzhuang finished speaking, everyone stopped talking and went into closed-door cultivation. Not only the D family, but almost everyone who came was unwilling to give up such a good opportunity to cultivate. Every second wasted was a second wasted. Therefore, other than a few cultivators who had just arrived, everyone immediately went into closed-door cultivation after settling down. After the great elder settled everyone down, he did not give up on this great opportunity. His cultivation level had not increased for a long time. Perhaps he could take advantage of this opportunity to increase it. Chapter 57:21. This news caused the leaders of the various forces to become restless. Although their cultivation levels were high, it was also because of this that it was even more difficult for them to break through. Where else could they find such a good opportunity on a normal day? Instantly, many of the leaders of the forces disguised themselves and arrived near the ancient battlefield. After the first person appeared, many more people appeared one after another. Although they had disguised themselves, they were still recognized. However, no one exposed them. After all, everyone had a tacit understanding of their purpose of coming here. Bailey Hongzhuang concocted some medicine and everyone simply soaked in the medicinal bath to cultivate. On one side was the heaven and earth yuan qi, and on the other side was the pure medicinal power. Under the influence of these two factors, everyone improved tremendously every day. However, even if they felt the barrier to breaking through, no one tried to break through. Instead, they suppressed it. This was the time to accumulate. Only by accumulating more would one be able to reap greater rewards. Compared to the various forces, the number of breakthroughs in the mercenary guild's encampment was higher every day. Cultivators of various cultivation levels gathered in the mercenary guild. Some of them even broke through 3 levels in a short period of time. Such a harvest was truly a pleasant surprise. Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest were engrossed in their cultivation. During this process, they naturally noticed the movements of the other cultivators. However, among the cultivators they were familiar with, they had not heard of anyone breaking through to the Radiant Moon realm. I wonder if the other cultivators also know to suppress their breakthroughs. Bai Li Yen Che was puzzled when he realized that no one had broken through to the Radiant Moon Realm after such a long time. Perhaps. Mo Yunjue pondered. The Radiant Moon Realm is more difficult to break through than the other realms. Others don't know, but I believe that Xiao Sou and Jun Lingxuan definitely know. Bai Li Hongzhuang looked certain. Since Shu Yu went to the Crossing Immortal Territory, the cultivators he met were naturally extremely powerful. I'm afraid he already knew about this. Di Beichen nodded slightly. He agreed with Bai Li Hongzhuang's opinion. I asked my father before. Perhaps the Immortal Territory and the Upper Realm have not been in contact for a long time, so many people in the Upper Realm are not clear about this. My father doesn't know about this. He just broke through to the Radiant Moon Realm as usual. Beichen, where is the Immortal Territory you're talking about? Di Xiaofeng looked at Beichen in confusion. Why did he feel that Beichen and the rest seemed to know many things he did not know? It's a higher existence. Di Beichen smiled faintly. However, we are not very clear about that place. We only know that Shu Yu has been to the Crossing Immortal Domain, so she knows more about cultivation than us. Di Xiaofeng sighed. Originally, the Xiao family and the Jun family were no longer a threat to us, but since this person appeared, things have become a lot more troublesome. I wonder why Shu Yu would help them. However, no matter what, we cannot allow him to affect the Di clan. Di Beichen's Di Xiaofeng. He would not let go of anyone who affected his family. Even if the opponent was far more powerful than they imagined. Di Xiaofeng looked at Di Beichen quietly. Suddenly, his lips curled into a dazzling smile. Chapter 57-22. Hearing the word immortal, Bai Li Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other and laughed involuntarily. Shu Yu had only gone to the immortal domain and had yet to become a cultivator of the immortal domain. She was indeed not an immortal. In the blink of an eye, 2 months had passed. In these 2 months, the number of cultivators that gathered in Western Desert City could be said to have increased. Previously, when Bai Li Hongzhuang and the others arrived, the entrance of the ancient battlefield was already filled with cultivators. Now, the number of cultivators was constantly increasing. Even the edge of the desert was surrounded by cultivators. Although the further back one's position was, the weaker the concentration of origin qi would be, it was still better than the usual cultivation environment. Therefore, everyone still flocked to this place and enjoyed it. Master, I feel the opportunity to break through again. After Jun Lingxuan felt the barrier to breaking through to the Radiant Moon Realm, he couldn't help but be pleasantly surprised. Until now, he hadn't felt any other familiar peers breaking through to the Radiant Moon Realm. If he could break through first, he would definitely be in the limelight. On this point, he could directly suppress Di Beichen and Di Xiaofeng. Shu Yu looked at Jun Lingxuan's happy appearance and shook her head. Don't be in a hurry to break through for now. Accumulate more. After breaking through, you'll be even stronger. Hearing this, Jun Lingxuan frowned. Master, I already felt the opportunity to break through a while ago. You told me to accumulate, so I've been accumulating. Now that I've felt it for the second time, can't I break through? Ling Sun, don't be anxious about breaking through. Accumulating more is good for you. Master won't lie to you. Shu Yu's expression was indifferent, as if she didn't see Jun Lingxuan's anxiousness. Master, I heard that Nangong Yuqing is already at Nebula rank 9. If he breaks through to the Radiant Moon Realm first, then Ling Sun's limelight will be stolen. What's more, Di Beichen and Bai Li Hongzhuang's cultivation talent isn't weak. Who knows when they might break through first? Xiao Sou couldn't help but say. During this period of time, they had been suppressed by Di Beichen in every way, and all the limelight had been stolen by them. She only hoped to turn the tables around as soon as possible. If they break through, then let them break through. What's the problem? Xu Yu's expression was mild. Do you want temporary glory or long-term benefits? I've already told you before that you can't be too hasty in everything. The best outcome is when the conditions are right. In short, my opinion is not to break through, but to accumulate more. If you don't listen, I won't stop you. Looking at Xu Yu's back, Xiao Sou and Jun Lingxuan looked at each other helplessly. I really don't understand. It's not easy to get this kind of opportunity. Why does Master always have such an attitude? Jun Lingxuan sighed. He used to be so glorious, but he had already fallen many times because of Di Beichen. This time, he really wanted to turn the tables, but he couldn't offend his master. I see that Di Beichen and the others haven't broken through. Ling Sun, don't be too anxious. Xiao Sou comforted. Jun Lingxuan nodded slightly. We've already lost for so long. This time, we can't lose again. We definitely won't lose. This is the second time you've sensed the opportunity to break through. Di Beichen and the others haven't broken through yet. It's clear that they can't compare to you. Chapter 57-23. When Bailey Hongzhuang sensed the opportunity to break through, she immediately stopped cultivating. If she continued, she wouldn't be able to control the energy in her body and break through the barrier. Noticing Bailey Hongzhuang's movements, Di Beichen chuckled, about to break through. Yes. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled, I suddenly understand what Zhongli Mu said earlier. He broke through unknowingly while sleeping, so he really can't suppress it. Zhongli Mu had previously told everyone about his breakthrough. Because Zhongli Mu had asked him to suppress it, he had been suppressing it. However, as he accumulated more and more energy, the opportunity to break through kept appearing. Even the slightest bit of carelessness could lead to a breakthrough. Under such circumstances, he didn't even dare to sleep, afraid that he would break through. Until one day, because he hadn't slept for a long time, he was too sleepy and broke through after taking a nap. That's why Zhongli Mu's strength is so abnormal. Ziran shook his head. Their confidence was nothing in front of Zhongli Mu. Just as everyone was talking, the aura of a breakthrough suddenly came. Everyone walked out of their tents after sensing the aura. They could sense that it came from an aristocratic family's tent, but they didn't know which one it was. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the others walked out of their tents, they saw the Great Elder standing outside and looking in the direction of the aura. Great Elder, who broke through? This aura comes from the Nangong family. It should be Nangong Yuqing breaking through to the Radiant Moon realm. The Great Elder looked into the distance and sighed. So it's Nangong Yuqing. Di Beichen didn't find it strange. After all, Nangong Yuqing wasn't weak. Back then, when he pursued Xiao Sou, he had many conflicts with them. However, ever since he brought Nangong Xiaolong back, they hadn't heard any news about him. This guy actually broke through to the Radiant Moon realm. It seems that his progress isn't small. Mo Yinjue said indifferently. Just as they were talking, Jun Lingxuan and Xiao Sou came out of their tents. Nangong Yuqing really broke through. Jun Lingxuan sighed. In the end, he wasn't the first to break through. Xiao Sou comforted him, Lingxuan, it's good that we understand. I believe that Master has his reasons. I hope so. Jun Ling Sun turned his head and found that Di Beichen and the others were looking at him. He immediately restrained the sadness on his face and restored his usual arrogance. Di Beichen, do you feel envious to see Nangong Yuqing have you broken through? Your cultivation's slow. I think you're the one who's be disappointed. Di Beichen smiled, in any case, my cultivation's already lagging behind, so it doesn't matter. Besides, strength and cultivation aren't completely proportional. Jun Lingxuan snorted, you're just talking big. We'll see who's the real deal when we enter the ancient battlefield. I hope you won't lose your life before you see us. Di Baichen raised his eyebrows and walked into the tent. The Nangong family's cultivators were undoubtedly full of glory. Their young master was the first to break through and stole the limelight from the other family's younger generation. Chapter 57-24. Father and the rest didn't come for such a good opportunity. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the great elder. It was a pity to miss such a good opportunity. Looking at the look of pity on Bailey Hongzhuang's face, the great elder smiled and said, "Actually, the master and the rest are already here." As soon as these words came out, everyone was stunned. Their eyes flashed with a strong sense of surprise. Is that true? Of course it's true. Then why didn't we see them? The great elder sighed. All the major forces have agreed that the younger generation will explore the ancient battlefield. It's naturally inappropriate for the elders to come here. However, many leaders of the forces have come, but they have disguised themselves and did not enter the base of their respective families. The current situation is considered to be unspoken. Hearing that, everyone finally understood. They had not expected the leaders of the forces to be so interesting. They had formed such an interesting unwritten rule in such a short period of time. Great Elder, it's a pity to miss such a good opportunity. Why didn't the master and the rest go in? Wen Ziren asked curiously. If the master had gone in, he would have reaped a greater harvest than them. Looking at the confused crowd, the great elder smiled and explained, if the master went in, he would have reaped a greater harvest, but the risk would be great as well. Moreover, the younger generation has to be given space to grow. Only with enough experience and opportunities can they become stronger. Actually, the master and the rest had gone through this in the past. I was too naive, Yi Zichen said. Wen Ziren was enlightened. He had only thought about the benefits and had not considered anything else. The younger generation was an extremely precious resource for the family. However, if anything happened to the master, it would be a huge blow to the family. Thinking about it, all the major forces had been doing this for the past few years. The restriction is much fainter than before. I believe it won't be long before it completely disappears. The great elder reminded everyone. Everyone, I estimate that it will take about 7 days. Continue to cultivate first. When it's about time, I'll inform you. Everyone nodded. Once they entered the ancient battlefield, it would be the time for the younger generation of the major forces to compete. Before entering, even if one's cultivation increased by a little, their chances of survival would increase by a little. With that, the first elder walked out of the tent with a helpless look on his face. Nangong Yuqing had already broken through to the radiant moon realm, but the young master and the great young master had not. If they entered the ancient battlefield, they would be at a disadvantage. The great young master and Nangong Yuqing had formed a grudge during the previous trip to the immortal cloud realm. If they met in the ancient battlefield, they would inevitably fight. He was very clear about the difference between the nebula tier and the radiant moon tier. It might seem like it was only one level, but the difference between the two was far more than just one level. I hope he can make a breakthrough in 7 days. The great elder prayed. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others didn't know what the great elder was thinking. Right now, no one was planning to break through. Their idea was to be like Zhongli Mu and break through naturally. It would be more beneficial for them in the future. Everyone could feel that the restriction was about to disappear. This kind of cultivation opportunity would most likely not appear again in the future. Therefore, in the remaining few days, everyone cultivated in silence for fear of delaying the advancement of their cultivation. T. Chapter 57-25. Not because of anything else, but because of the noisy discussion coming from outside. It seems that the seal is about to dissipate, Di Beichen said in a low voice. Everyone walked out of the tent and looked at the entrance. The fog was as hazy as before, blocking everyone's vision. They couldn't see the front with their naked eyes. They knew that the seal was about to dissipate because of their mental strength. The power that had been lingering at the entrance had weakened a lot and was faintly dissipating. When the great elder saw that everyone had come out, he said, "Young master, I'm afraid that the seal will dissipate in another 4 hours. You have to be prepared. We'll be going in soon." Di Beichen nodded slightly. His chiseled face was solemn and serious. "Great elder, don't worry. We're already prepared and can set off at any time." Perhaps it was because they were about to enter the ancient battlefield, many cultivators couldn't cultivate in peace. The surroundings became noisy and lively. Xiaofeng. Murong Jing's figure appeared in front of everyone. "I knew that you were cultivating, so I didn't disturb you. We'll be entering the ancient battlefield soon and we'll have to fight side by side again." Seeing Murong Jing, Di Xiaofeng smiled heartily and warmly. "You and I have fought side by side since we were young. We can't underestimate the ancient battlefield this time. Although the situation isn't clear, everyone is sure that the danger level inside is higher than what we've experienced before. So, we have to be careful when we enter. We're all people who cherish our lives. We don't know what's going to happen after we enter. It's safer for us to meet up as soon as possible." Di Xiaofeng nodded. There were so many rumors before they even entered. It was clear how dangerous it was. In his opinion, the treasure was secondary. Protecting his life was the most important. Murong Jing was relieved when he saw that Di Xiaofeng understood the situation. He didn't stay any longer. All the major forces had already kept their tents and were waiting to enter the ancient battlefield later. "Young master, great master," the patriarch said that everything else isn't important as long as you return safely. Moreover, Xiao So and Jun Lingxuan probably learned some tricks from Xu Yu. The patriarch said that you shouldn't underestimate the enemy. The great elder's expression was serious, but his eyes were filled with worry. Now that they were about to enter, and none of the young masters and the others had broken through to the radiant moon realm, he could not help but feel worried. "We understand." Di Beichen nodded and turned his gaze slightly. However, he found that among the troops that were beginning to retreat behind him, a familiar gaze had fallen on him. It was a face she had never seen before, but the gaze was warm and familiar. The other party nodded at Di Beichen, and Di Beichen responded indifferently. He knew that it was Di Yujue in disguise. Before they left, his father was still worried about them. Bailey Hongzhuang followed Di Beichen's gaze and also noticed the figure. Whether it was her height or her appearance, she was completely different from her usual self, but she was still recognizable at first glance. Di Yujue's lips curled into a smile before he turned and left. Not only Di Yujue, but the leaders of the major forces also left quietly. If they didn't leave now, it would be awkward for them to stay here and look at each other when the juniors entered the ancient battlefield later. Chapter 57-26. Soon after, the restriction completely dissipated under everyone's waiting. Do you feel it? The prohibition has disappeared completely. We can go in now. After waiting for so long, it has finally disappeared. But who will go in first? Even though they had sensed the disappearance of the restriction, their hearts were still pounding. The ancient battlefield was simply too mysterious to them. When Di Beichen and the rest realized this, they were ready to go and slowly approached the entrance. "Young master, we will wait for your return in the family," the great elder said sincerely as he glanced at the cultivators in the Di family. Di Beichen nodded, "Don't worry, I will bring everyone back safely. Take care." Just as everyone was in a dilemma, someone had already entered the ancient battlefield. As the first person entered, the other cultivators rushed in without hesitation and threw the so-called risk to the back of their minds. Xiao Shou and Jun Lingxuan also prepared to leave at the first moment, and before leaving, Xu Yu couldn't help but remind them. After entering the ancient battlefield, if you don't encounter any danger, there is no need to rush to break through. Suppressing your cultivation will be beneficial to you. However, if you encounter any danger, you can break through if you really can't. Yes, Master. You must return safely. Xu Yu nodded and waved for the two of them to leave. Jun Lingxuan did not delay and immediately led his own team into the ancient battlefield with Xiao Shou. When Bailey Hongzhuang opened her eyes, there was a foggy world in front of her. White fog filled her eyes and in an instant, it was as if there was only white left in the world. The air was filled with the smell of blood and Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but frown. The ancient battlefield should have appeared for a long time. Why is there still such a strong smell of blood? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. However, there was no response to her voice. Beichen? Are you not here? Beichen. After shouting a few times without receiving any response, Bailey Hongzhuang finally understood. It seemed that they had been separated when they came in. Master, this place is so strange. There is only white fog as far as the eye can see. I can't see anything clearly at all. Xiao He looked puzzled. They had been to such places before, but even though the visibility was low, they could still see clearly within a meter. Right now, they couldn't see anything at all. If there was any danger, they wouldn't even be able to react in time. Bailey Hongzhuang's face darkened. The ancient battlefield is not like the immortal cloud mystic realm. Many people have already entered it. This is the first time it has appeared. No one knows what is going on inside. If it's a dangerous place, wouldn't it be possible for all of us to be wiped out? Xiao He no longer had the joking expression from before. Such a consequence was not something they could bear. First, we have to figure out where the smell of blood came from. Is it from before or now? Bailey Hongzhuang said in a deep voice. Even though the situation in front of her made her feel helpless, Bailey Hongzhuang forced herself to calm down. She had no other choice now. If she did not calm down, she might not even be able to keep her life. Closing her eyes, Bailey Hongzhuang tried to use her mental energy to sense everything around her. However, there was a mysterious power in the fog that prevented her mental energy from penetrating it. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.